Welcome to True Chilling Tales. I know you came to relax, listen, and fall asleep. Before we start, comment below and let me know what time it is with you and where you're watching from. Time for some chilling tales. Lay back, relax, and enjoy. The production crew set up camp 3 weeks ago, transforming our high street into a set for some reality competition show about small-town entrepreneurs. None of us minded at first. The exposure seemed good for business, and they paid the council enough to resurface the car park behind the community center. I work evenings at the charity shop on Mill Road, sorting donations in the back room while the town center gets its 15 minutes. Tuesday night, I stayed late because a house clearance had come in that afternoon. 6 boxes of books and clothes that needed cataloging before Thursday's opening. The front was locked, lights off to discourage anyone rattling the door. Just me, the storage room's fluorescent hum, and the distant rumble of the film crew packing up for the night. Around 9:30, I heard voices outside the fire exit. Male, urgent but controlled. I assumed it was crew members taking a smoke break. They'd been using our alley all week because it was out of frame. Then I heard my name, not shouted, discussed. She's the one who posted about the contracts on the Facebook group, stirring things up. I had posted. 2 days ago, a dozen local business owners had signed release forms without reading them properly, giving the production company rights to their story and likeness in perpetuity. I'd flagged it in our community group after my solicitor friend looked at mine, told people to get legal advice before signing anything else. Just a volunteer, another voice said. No one's going to listen to her. Doesn't matter. The post got shared. We've got people backing out now, threatening the shoot schedule. I set down the box I was holding carefully, silently. The fire exit was bolted from inside, but the lock was old and I could see shadows moving in the gap beneath the door. We need her to retract it, say she misunderstood, post a correction. And if she won't, a pause that lasted too long. Then we make sure her credibility's shot before Friday. We've got footage we can edit, make it look like she's been skimming donations. The manager's already nervous about inventory discrepancies. My stomach dropped. There had been discrepancies. A box of vintage watches that came in last month, logged but never priced. I'd reported it myself, assuming someone had misfiled the paperwork. Now I understood. They'd been in and out of here all week, borrowing our back room for storage when their trailers were full. Access to everything. I pulled out my phone. No signal. The thick stone walls of the building turned it into a dead zone on good days. Tonight felt deliberate. I opened the camera app anyway, started recording audio, and shoved the phone into my hoodie pocket, microphone facing out. The handle of the fire exit rattled. Locked. She's in there. I saw the light on earlier. Front entrance? Footsteps retreated. I had maybe 2 minutes. The main door was solid, double locked, but it opened onto the high street where the crew had set up lights and cameras. If I ran, I'd be on film, exactly what they wanted. Footage of me fleeing the scene after evidence of theft was discovered. They'd control the narrative completely. The storeroom had one window, high and narrow, that opened onto the car park. I dragged a chair over, climbed up, forced the latch. It hadn't been opened in years and fought me, rust flaking onto my hands. Outside, I could hear the front door rattling now, someone testing the locks. The window finally gave. I squeezed through, dropping into the car park with a jarring thud that shot pain up through my ankles. The filming lights were still on, bathing the high street in artificial daylight. But the car park was dark, lit only by a single, flickering lamp near the bins. I ran toward the side street, keeping low behind parked cars. My own car was around front. Useless. I needed to get to the police station, 3 streets over, past the market square where they'd been filming all week. That's when I saw the cameraman. He was standing by the market cross, camera on his shoulder, lens pointed directly at the charity shop. Not filming the street, filming the building. Waiting. I ducked behind a transit van, heart hammering. They had coverage, every angle. If I went toward the station, I'd be on camera. If I went the other way, toward the residential streets, I'd be heading away from help, into darker roads, where a single production van could cut me off. My phone buzzed. Signal had returned. A notification from the community Facebook group. Someone had posted a photo of me, taken tonight, through the charity shop window. The caption read, "Spotted late night inventory check at the shop. Anyone else think it's weird she's always there alone?" Posted 3 minutes ago, already 12 comments, half of them speculating, half defending me. The damage was starting. I opened my messages, started typing to my solicitor friend, kept it factual. Overheard conversation, threat to frame me. Evidence planted. I attached the audio recording from my pocket, sent it before I could second guess. Then I called the non-emergency police number. Explained I was being harassed by the film crew, felt unsafe, needed someone to meet me. The dispatcher sounded skeptical but took my details. Said someone would swing by the shop but within the hour. An hour was too long. I stayed behind the van watching the cameraman. He lowered the camera after a few minutes, spoke into a radio. Then he started walking. Not toward me, but toward the community center, where the crew kept their equipment trailers. I moved fast, keeping to the shadows, using parked cars and shop fronts for cover. Made it to the end of the high street, then cut through the churchyard. Off camera, unlit, overgrown. My breath came in sharp bursts, cold air burning my throat. The police station was finally in sight when I heard the van. It came from the side street, headlights off, moving slowly. I pressed myself against the churchyard wall, hidden by overgrown yew trees. The van stopped at the corner, engine idling, waiting. I didn't move, didn't breathe. After 5 minutes, the van rolled forward, turned left, disappeared. I ran the final stretch to the station, pushed through the doors into fluorescent brightness and the smell of instant coffee. The officer at the desk looked up, bored, until he saw my face. I told him everything. He took notes, made calls. My solicitor friend arrived 20 minutes later with a printed copy of the audio file and a list of contract violations she'd found in the production company's paperwork. By midnight, 2 officers had gone to the charity shop. They reviewed the CCTV the crew didn't know existed and confirmed the timeline. The production company's liaison was unavailable for comment. Their trailers were gone by morning. The Facebook post about me got deleted. No explanation, no apology. The show aired 6 months later. Our town featured in 2 episodes. I'm in one shot, barely visible through the charity shop window, holding a box of books, anonymous background. I still volunteer there. Different nights now, and I never stay late alone. But sometimes when I see a film crew setting up anywhere in town, I check the exits first, count the cameras, make sure I know where the blind spots are, just in case they decide they need better footage. The engine cut out exactly 3 miles from the village, Not that the distance mattered anymore. I'm writing this from my kitchen table because the police finally closed the case yesterday, filed it as insufficient evidence to proceed, and I need someone to understand what actually happened out there. The car had been making that clicking sound for weeks. I'd meant to book it in, but between shift work at the distribution center and trying to keep up with bills, it kept sliding down the priority list. When the dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree and the power steering died, I managed to coast onto a grass verge. The B road stretched empty in both directions, hedgerows thick on either side. That particular kind of summer evening where the light turns gold, but the shadows are already pooling. No signal. Not unusual for that stretch. Everyone knew the masts didn't reach past Hollowfield. I locked the doors and sat for maybe 20 minutes, watching one car pass without slowing. The recovery service app wouldn't load. I tried text, hoping they'd queue and send when I got signal back, but the spinning wheel just mocked me. That's when the white van pulled up behind me. It sat there, engine running, close enough that I couldn't see the number plate in my mirror. No hazards, no one got out. Just idling, maybe 10 feet back. I told myself it was someone checking if I needed help, that they'd approach any second. A minute passed. 2. The sun was properly setting now, and I couldn't make out anyone through the windscreen glare. I flashed my hazards twice. Nothing. The van's engine revved once, a deliberate pulse, then settled back to idle. My hands were shaking when I locked the doors again. They were already locked. I checked 3 times. Through the side mirror, I watched the driver's door. It opened slowly. Work boots hit the tarmac. Navy coveralls, the industrial kind with company patches, though I couldn't read them in the fading light. The man walked around to my passenger side, bent down, and tapped on the window with something metal. A spanner. Car trouble? His voice was muffled but audible. 50s, maybe. Graying beard. The kind of face you'd see in any pub, completely forgettable. Recovery's on the way, I lied, keeping my eyes forward. No signal out here. He tapped again, harder. I've got tools. Can take a look. I'm fine, thanks. He didn't move, just stood there, spanner resting against the glass. Saw you broken down, thought I'd help. That's all. The reasonable words didn't match the way he stayed so close to the window, blocking my view of the road. I fumbled for the ignition, turned the key. The engine turned over but wouldn't catch. He watched each attempt, patient. Battery's not your problem, he said. Could be the fuel pump or the alternator, hard to tell without opening the bonnet. Please just go. He straightened up then, walked slowly back to the van. Relief flooded through me for exactly 5 seconds. Then he reversed, blocking the road completely. His hazards came on. He got out again, this time with a high-vis vest over the coveralls, and set up a collapsible warning triangle behind his van, making it look official, making it look like he was helping. A car approached from the opposite direction, slowed for the triangle, and drove around us both without stopping. The man waved them through, helpful, professional. I tried opening my door to shout, but he was already walking back, positioning himself between me and the passing car. They can't stop here, he called to me, pointing at the narrow road. Too dangerous. But don't worry, I've got you. The way he said it made my skin crawl. I laid on the horn. He didn't flinch, just stood there until I stopped, then shook his head like I was being hysterical. Another car came. I flashed my lights, hit the horn again. They slowed, but the man stepped into the road, waving them on with exaggerated gestures, pointing at the triangle. Official, helpful. They went. He leaned down to my window again. You're just making this harder. Let me help you, and I'll be on my way. I don't want your help. Everyone needs help sometimes. The spanner tapped a rhythm against the glass. I've got a daughter about your age. I'd want someone to stop for her. The mention of his daughter felt like a threat, though I couldn't explain why. The light was almost gone. His van blocked any car coming from behind from seeing me properly. The triangle ensured anyone from ahead would think it was a legitimate breakdown situation. I tried the engine again. On the 7th attempt, it caught, sputtering but running. I didn't wait. I pulled out hard, clipping the grass verge, accelerating past his van with inches to spare. In the mirror, he stood in the road watching. Not running after me, not angry, just watching. The engine died again 2 miles later, right at the edge of the village where the street lights started. I stumbled to the nearest house, hammered on the door. The couple who answered let me use their phone. The recovery truck came within 40 minutes. The driver found sugar in my fuel tank. Not much, just enough to wreck the fuel pump and strand me. He said someone had forced the cap. The locking mechanism was damaged. He asked if I'd parked anywhere sketchy recently. I told him about the man in the van. The police took a statement. They checked CCTV from the petrol station I'd used that afternoon, but the cameras covering the pumps had been out for maintenance. They searched for white vans registered to tradesmen in the area, hundreds, without a plate number or company name. They had nothing. The officer said it was probably just someone who saw an opportunity, that I'd done the right thing by staying in the car. But she didn't see his face when I refused his help. The way his expression didn't change. The way he'd set up that triangle made it all look legitimate, ensured no one would stop to interfere. The way he'd poisoned my fuel tank and waited, knowing exactly where I'd end up. I sold the car last week. I take the bus now, even though it adds an hour to my commute. The police closed the case yesterday. Insufficient evidence. I saw him again 3 days ago parked outside the Tesco in town. Same white van. He was just sitting there watching people come and go. I called the non-emergency number. They said without proof of a crime, there was nothing they could do. He smiled when he saw me looking, raised his hand in a slow wave. Then he drove away. And I realized I still don't know his number plate. I never got close enough to see it at Ewinda. The GPS coordinates led me 3 miles deeper than the trail map showed. I'm writing this because the police Santos closed the case last week. Accidental death, they said, and maybe they're right about the hiker they found. But they weren't there when I saw what I saw. I'd been geocaching for 2 years, mostly urban hides around Manchester, nothing serious. My mate James got me into it after my divorce. Said I needed a hobby that got me outdoors. The cache I was hunting that Saturday was rated difficult, placed somewhere in Delamere Forest during a power outage 6 months prior, according to the log. The description mentioned old infrastructure and off the beaten path. I should have paid more attention to that last bit. The car park was empty when I arrived, mid-morning. October half-term, so I'd expected families, dog walkers, the usual weekend crowd. Instead, nothing. Just my Fiesta and a white van with contractor plates, engine ticking as it cooled. I checked my phone, full signal. The cache coordinates were saved offline anyway. The first marker led me past the visitor center, closed for renovations according to the sign, and onto a trail that narrowed quickly. 40 minutes in, the path split. My GPS said left, but that direction had blue and white tape across the trees. Forestry Commission work area, no public access. The tape sagged in the middle, old and weathered. I ducked under it, stupid, I know. But the cache was only 200 meters further, and I'd driven an hour to get there. The forest changed past that tape. Darker, even though the canopy wasn't thicker. The undergrowth had been cleared in straight lines, geometric, unnatural. I found the first surveyor's stake 10 meters in, orange plastic, numbered, then another. They formed a grid spreading into the trees. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. You need to leave the exclusion zone. Male voice, calm, professional. Now. Who is this? Forestry Commission. You're in a restricted area? Head back to the main trail. How did you... The call dropped. When I checked my screen, there was no record of it. No missed call, no duration, nothing. I should have left then. Instead, I kept walking, following the stakes. The cache description mentioned old infrastructure, and I could see it now. Concrete foundations poking through the leaf litter, rusted rebar, the remains of something built and abandoned. Military, maybe. Delamere had been used for training during the war. The cache container was supposed to be near a guardian oak. I found the tree easily enough, massive, ancient, its roots buckling the concrete around it. But there was something else. A tent. Modern, expensive, the kind serious hikers use. It was partially collapsed, one pole snapped. The fly sheet rippled in a breeze I couldn't feel. I called out. No answer. The tent's zipper was open. Inside, a sleeping bag, a rucksack, a water bottle, and a notebook, open to a page covered in coordinates. Dozens of them handwritten, each with a date. The most recent was yesterday. Below it, in different ink. They're not forestry, they're watching the site. That's when I heard the footsteps, not on the trail behind me. Ahead, past the oak, where the stakes led deeper into the grid. Boots on concrete, deliberate and slow. I grabbed the notebook and backed out of the tent. A man emerged from the trees. Late 40s, high-vis vest over civilian clothes, radio clipped to his belt. He smiled when he saw me. You're off the trail, he said. I'm geocaching, I was just... That's not a public cache. He stepped closer. Who told you about this location? It's on the app. Anyone can... Show me. I opened the geocaching app. The cache listing was gone, not archived, deleted entirely, as if it had never existed. His smile didn't reach his eyes. You need to come with me. There's a contamination issue in this area. We need to log everyone who's been through. Contamination? Old ordnance, unexploded material, very dangerous. He gestured back toward the trail. We've got a decontamination station at the car park. I looked past him at the stakes. The concrete, the systematic clearing. This wasn't forestry work, it was an excavation. The notebook was still in my hand. He saw it. Where did you get that? The tent. Is someone hurt? Should I call? Give me the notebook. I ran. Not back to the trail. He was blocking that direction, but sideways, through the grid, past more foundations and stakes. I heard him on the radio, calm and measured. Runner in Sector 7. Civilian male has the log. Another voice crackled back. Contain and retrieve. I crashed through bracken, thorns tearing my jacket. The forest seemed to fold in on itself, every direction identical. My GPS spun uselessly, coordinates jumping. I burst into a clearing and stopped. More concrete. But this was intact. A bunker entrance, steel door ajar, darkness beyond. Fresh mud on the threshold. Recent footprints, smaller than mine, leading in. I heard engines behind me. Multiple vehicles, off-road, closing fast. I went into the bunker. The corridor sloped down, emergency lighting flickering along the walls. 20 meters in, it opened into a chamber, and there on the floor was the geocache container. A small ammo box, exactly where the coordinates said it would be. I opened it, Inside, a logbook, the usual trinkets, and underneath, wrapped in plastic, a USB drive. The logbook's last entry was dated 2 days ago. If you're reading this, document everything. They've been erasing caches near the sites. I have evidence of what they're digging up. It's not ordnance. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. Flashlight beams swept the walls. I pocketed the drive and ran deeper. The bunker branched, a maze of Cold War paranoia. I found an air vent, rusted but wide enough, and squeezed through. I emerged a quarter-mile away near the main road. Flagged down a passing car, told them I'd gotten lost. Hiking. They drove me back to the car park. My Fiesta was still there. The white van was gone, no tape on the trails, no signs of contractors. I checked the geocaching app again. The cache listing was back, marked as found by me an hour ago. My own log entry describing a pleasant forest walk. I never wrote that log. The police found a body 3 days later, male hiker, mid-30s, apparent fall near the old bunker. His rucksack was missing. They asked if I'd seen anything unusual during my visit. I said no. I still have the USB drive. I'm afraid to open it. But I keep checking the geocaching app, and new caches keep appearing near Delamere, rated difficult. Placed during outages, descriptions mentioning old infrastructure, and they're all being found by the same user account created the day after the body was discovered. The house smelled wrong the moment I stepped inside. Not bad, just different. Like someone had opened all the windows and then closed them again. I'd agreed to house sit for Marcus while he was in Portugal for 3 weeks. We'd been flatmates at uni, stayed close after. He trusted me with his place, his cat, his spare bedroom. Easy favor. I needed the break from my own flat anyway. The couple upstairs had started renovating at 6 every morning. Marcus left on a Tuesday. By Thursday night, I knew something was off. The first sign was small. I came back from the shops and found the kitchen bin moved, not knocked over, just repositioned, 6 inches to the left of where I'd seen it that morning. I stared at it for a full minute. Maybe I'd bumped it, maybe the cat had, except the cat was ancient and arthritic, barely made it up the stairs anymore. I checked the doors, both locked, windows latched. The spare key was still in the ceramic pot by the back door where Marcus said he'd leave it for emergencies. Friday, I woke at 2 a.m. to footsteps downstairs. Not creaking floorboards, footsteps, deliberate, moving from the kitchen toward the living room, then stopping. I lay there, phone in hand, thumbing $9.99 but not pressing call. The steps resumed, slow, methodical. Someone walking a familiar route, then silence. I waited 20 minutes before I crept downstairs, kitchen knife in one hand, phone in the other. Every light was off, exactly as I'd left them. Nothing disturbed. The front door was locked from the inside, chain still on, back door the same. I checked every room, every cupboard, nothing. The cat was asleep on the sofa, unbothered. Saturday morning I called Marcus, straight to voicemail. He'd mentioned patchy service in the villa. I left a message asking if he'd given anyone else a key. Maintenance, cleaner, anyone, no response. That afternoon I found a coffee mug in the sink. I don't drink coffee, never have. The mug was one of Marcus's, a chipped blue one he'd had since university. I'd washed all the dishes the night before, I was certain. I stood there staring at it, at the faint brown ring inside, still slightly damp. Someone had been in the house. Someone had made coffee. Someone had washed the mug and left it in the sink like they lived here. I checked the locks again, checked every window. I even looked for signs of forced entry, scratches around the locks, disturbed dust on the sills. Nothing. That's when I found the second spare key. It was in the ceramic pot by the back door, tucked beneath the one Marcus had left for me. Same keyring, same worn fob. 2 keys where there should have been 1. I took both keys inside and locked every door from the interior. I pushed the sofa against the front door. Checked my phone. Still no signal bars, but Wi-Fi worked. I opened the neighborhood app, scrolled through. Nothing unusual. No reports of break-ins, no suspicious activity. I messaged my sister. Staying at Marcus's. If I don't reply by tomorrow, call the police. Address is 14 Ashford Terrace. She replied instantly. LOL, dramatic much? You okay? I didn't answer. Sunday, I didn't leave the house. I sat in the living room with every light on, watching the doors. The cat stayed with me, which felt like validation. Animals know. At 4 p.m., I heard the back door unlock. Not break, unlock. The sound of a key sliding into the lock, the bolt turning smoothly. I grabbed the knife and moved into the hallway. The back door swung open. A man stepped inside, mid-50s, wearing a fluorescent jacket with a contractor logo. He had a toolbox. He froze when he saw me. "Who the hell are you?" I said, knife raised. He raised both hands, eyes wide. "Whoa, whoa. I'm the landlord, Marcus's landlord. I'm just here to check the boiler." Marcus didn't say anything about a boiler check. Emergency inspection. Got the notice last week. Didn't he tell you? No. We stared at each other. "Look," he said, lowering his hands slowly. "I've got the paperwork in the van. I can show you. I've got keys to all my properties. It's in the lease." I didn't lower the knife. "Show me the paperwork first." He nodded. Backed out slowly, hands still visible. I watched him walk to a white van parked 2 doors down. He returned with a clipboard, some kind of council notice clipped to it. I scanned it. Official letterhead, Marcus's address, dated 10 days ago. "Why didn't Marcus mention this?" The landlord shrugged. "Probably forgot. Happens all the time. Tenants go on holiday. I send notices. They don't read them." I stepped aside. Let him in. Watched him walk straight to the boiler cupboard under the stairs like he'd done it 100 times. He worked for 20 minutes, checking pipes, making notes. I stood in the hallway the entire time, knife on the counter within reach. When he finished, he nodded at me. "All sorted. Sorry for the scare." "Have you been here before this week?" He paused, toolbox in hand. "What? Have you been in this house since Tuesday?" His face shifted. Not guilt. Something else. Calculation. "I stopped by Wednesday to check the meter. Didn't think anyone was home. I saw the lights off, let myself in. Checked the reading, left." "That a problem?" "You made coffee?" Silence. "I was here for 10 minutes, he said slowly. I brought my own thermos, didn't touch anything. There's a mug in the sink." "Not mine." We stared at each other. He left without another word. I locked the door behind him, checked the bolt 3 times, then sat on the floor with my back against it. Marcus called that night. Finally, I told him everything, the footsteps, the mug, the landlord. "Oh yeah," he said, voice crackling through bad reception. "Sorry, forgot to mention he does random inspections. It's in the lease. Annoying, but legal." "He said he came Wednesday. Did you give him permission?" "He doesn't need permission. He owns the place." "Marcus, someone's been in your house at night." "Probably just the boiler clicking. Old houses make noise. You're not used to it." I wanted to scream. I stayed until Marcus returned. Didn't sleep much. Kept the knife close. On my last morning, I found a 3rd key in the ceramic pot. I counted them twice. 3 keys now. I'd taken 2 inside, locked them in a drawer. But here was another, same key ring, same fob. I didn't tell Marcus. I left that afternoon, drove home, and didn't look back. 2 weeks later, Marcus called. Said he was moving out. Wouldn't say why, just that the landlord had been difficult. Wouldn't elaborate. I asked if he'd ever counted how many spare keys existed for his house. He hung up. I still have the knife. The first envelope appeared on a Tuesday morning in March, tucked against the door frame where the wood had warped from last winter's rain. No stamp, no return address, just my name in careful block letters. I'm a logistics coordinator for a medical supply company. I deal with documentation all day. The lack of postage bothered me more than it should have. Someone had hand-delivered this. Someone had stood exactly where I was standing, close enough to notice the loose paint on my door number. Inside was a single photograph. Me, walking out of the Tesco Metro on Dalston Lane, taken 3 days prior, judging by the jacket I'd worn. The angle suggested someone standing near the bus shelter across the street. I remembered that trip. I'd bought meal deal sandwiches and a bottle of Lucozade. The photo captured me mid-step, carrier bag in hand, completely unaware. I told myself it was a prank. My flatmate Sasha thought maybe it was from an ex, though I hadn't dated anyone in 8 months. We checked the building's entry system. No CCTV in our corridor, just the main entrance downstairs. The landlord had been promising to upgrade for 2 years. The second envelope came Friday. Same placement, same handwriting. This time a receipt from Boots. My receipt. I'd picked up a prescription on Wednesday, paid with contactless. Someone had either followed me inside or waited until I binned it, then fished it out. The thought of them sorting through rubbish, looking for anything with my name on it, made my skin crawl. I filed a report online with the Met, got an incident number, an automated email saying someone would be in touch within 5 working days. Sasha suggested changing our routine, varying our routes. But my commute to the office in Stratford only had 2 realistic options, and both involved the overground from Dalston Junction. The third envelope arrived Monday. Inside, a napkin from Pret. I recognized the coffee stain. I'd spilled my flat white that morning, dabbed at my sleeve in frustration. This napkin. This exact one. Whoever was doing this had been close enough to take it from my table while I'd been distracted, probably scrolling my phone. They were escalating. The photographs showed distance. The receipt showed awareness. The napkin showed proximity. I started checking the doorstep every few hours, morning before work, lunchtime on my break via the building's exterior camera feed. Our landlord had finally given us app access after I'd mentioned the police report. Then again when I got home. Nothing Tuesday, nothing Wednesday. Thursday's envelope was thicker. I almost didn't want to open it. Inside were 12 photographs, printed on standard copy paper. Me leaving the flat, me at the station, me at my desk, visible through the office's ground floor windows, me buying groceries, me waiting for the pedestrian crossing. Me. A week of surveillance, cataloged and delivered. The last photo showed my bedroom window from the street. Curtains open, lamp on, me visible as a silhouette. Taken 2 nights ago, I called the incident number, got transferred 3 times, finally reached someone who sounded interested. And they said the photos constituted harassment, possibly stalking. An officer would visit to take a statement. Could I come to the station tomorrow? I said I'd rather they come to me. The thought of leaving the flat made my chest tight. Friday morning, an envelope was waiting when I opened the door for the officer. I hadn't checked at dawn, hadn't thought they'd come so early. PC Okafor photographed it in situ before I touched it. Documented the placement, the lack of forensic value, too many surfaces, too much contamination. Inside was a key, not my key, but similar. A Yale, slightly worn, A post-it note stuck to it read, "Doesn't fit yet." The implication landed like a fist. They were working on access, trying keys or making copies or learning the building's entry codes. Okafor took the key as evidence, said she'd arrange increased patrols, suggested I stay with someone for a few days. But Sasha was away visiting family in Leeds, and my parents were in Suffolk, too far for daily commuting. I couldn't afford time off work. Our department was understaffed. We just lost 2 people to redundancy. I changed the lock that afternoon. Cost me $140 I didn't have, but the locksmith was ex-police, took the situation seriously. He installed a deadbolt, showed me how to check if the pins had been tampered with, said if someone really wanted in, locks only bought time. Saturday, no envelope. Sunday, nothing. I started to hope it was over. Maybe the police visit had scared them off. Maybe they'd gotten bored. Maybe it had always been just letters, just intimidation, nothing more. Monday morning, I left early for a supplier meeting in Basildon. Returned home at 7, exhausted, wanting only tea and silence. The envelope was inside my flat, on the kitchen counter propped against the kettle. I hadn't given anyone the new key. Sasha still had her old one, useless now. The landlord had the new one, legally required, but he was in Cyprus for a month. I stood in the doorway, not breathing, not moving. The flat felt violated. The air smelled wrong. Faint cologne. Something citrus and sharp. Not mine. Not Sasha's. I didn't open the envelope. I walked back into the corridor, pulled the door shut, called 9999. They sent 2 officers. They searched the flat. Wardrobes, under the bed, the shower. Empty. But in my bedroom, on my pillow, they found a second envelope I hadn't noticed. Inside was a photograph of me sleeping, taken from the doorway. Taken that morning before I'd left for Basildon, or maybe one morning last week, I couldn't tell. The duvet was the same. The position was familiar. The officer's radio crackled. Something about a unit responding to a disturbance 2 streets over. Standard Friday night chaos. They told me to pack a bag. Said I couldn't stay here tonight, maybe not for a while. Said they'd get forensics out, dust for prints, check for signs of forced entry, but I was stuck on the photograph, on the angle, the way it showed my face, eyes closed, completely vulnerable. On the back, in those same block letters, "You look peaceful when you sleep." I'm writing this from a Premier Inn near King's Cross. It's been 9 days. The police found no prints, no evidence of forced entry. The locksmith confirmed the new lock hadn't been picked. Our landlord swears he didn't give anyone access, but his property management company employs 12 contractors with master key privileges. I don't know who's been in my flat. I don't know what they want. But this morning, the hotel receptionist handed me an envelope. No postage, just my name, in careful block letters. I haven't opened it yet. The carriage smelled like wet wool and disinfectant. I'd been riding this line for 3 years. Same seat, same Friday night routine. Headphones in, spreadsheet open on my laptop. The 2347 was always empty this late, which is why I noticed him immediately. He sat 4 rows back, tan jacket, hands folded in his lap, staring directly at me, not glancing, staring. I'm posting this because the police finally called yesterday. They found something. That night, I did what anyone would do. Looked away, focused on my screen. The train lurched out of the station, picking up speed as we left the suburbs behind. Through the window, streetlights gave way to darkness. Fields and hedgerows. The occasional farmhouse light. 40 minutes to my stop. When I glanced up again, he'd moved. 2 rows closer. My stomach tightened. The carriage was completely empty except for us. I could see his reflection in the window, still watching me, expression blank. I pulled out my phone. No signal, never was, once we hit the countryside. The train company had promised improvements for 2 years. I considered moving carriages, but that meant walking past him. And something about the deliberate way he'd changed seats made me think that's exactly what he wanted. The lights flickered. Once, twice, then steadied. When I looked up, he was 1 row back. I could hear my own breathing over the train's rhythm. My finger hovered over the emergency call button, but what would I say? A man changed seats. The conductor was 3 carriages forward. I'd seen him checking tickets at the station. Even if I pressed it, how long would it take him to arrive? The man stood up. I shoved my laptop into my bag, calculations racing. Next station was 12 minutes away, too long. The toilets were at the end of this carriage, past him, nowhere to go. The train was doing 70 through open countryside, no stops, no platforms, nothing but darkness and rain streaking the windows. He moved into the aisle. That's when I noticed his hands. He was wearing latex gloves, the kind you get in boxes of 100. I pressed the emergency button, held it. The light came on, but no voice responded, no acknowledgement. The system was supposed to connect directly to the driver. "You pressed it wrong," he said. His voice was soft, almost apologetic. "There's a sequence. Press, wait 3 seconds, press twice more. Otherwise it just logs as accidental." How did he know that? He took another step forward. I stood. Bag clutched to my chest, backing toward the end of the carriage. The connecting door was there. Manual release, stiff hinges. I'd watched other passengers struggle with it. "I work for the rail contractor," he continued, still moving slowly. "Maintenance scheduling. I know which trains have working cameras." He gestured vaguely upward. The camera housing above us was dark. "This route's been flagged for replacement for 8 months. Budget cuts." My back hit the door. I fumbled for the release, fingers slipping. He was 3 meters away now, close enough that I could see the details. Neat haircut, wedding ring, employee lanyard tucked into his jacket pocket. He looked like someone's dad, someone's colleague. "You take this train every Friday," he said. "Same seat. You get off at Millbrook, walk to the car park, drive a blue Corsa, registration ending in RFM. You live alone, flat above the pharmacy on Church Street. You leave your bedroom light on when you're not home." The door release gave way. I stumbled backward into the gap between carriages, cold air and noise hitting me. The coupling flexed and swayed, metal plates grinding. The next carriage door was right there. Just 2 meters of open platform, rain whipping through the gaps. He stepped through after me. In the confined space, with the train's movement throwing us both off balance, I realized how much larger he was. The noise was overwhelming, wheels on tracks, wind, the mechanical screech of the coupling. No one would hear anything out here. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, raising his voice over the din. "I just need you to understand something." I grabbed the next door's handle. Locked. The conductor must have secured the forward carriages. He reached into his jacket. I did the only thing I could think of. I hit the emergency brake. The red handle was right there, mounted on the wall between carriages, protected by a plastic cover that I ripped off. I yanked it down. Nothing happened. He smiled. "Disabled during maintenance, I told you. I know these trains." Then the brakes engaged. Not from my pull, someone else, somewhere. The train lurched violently, throwing us both forward. I crashed into the door, heard him slam against the opposite wall. The screech was deafening, metal grinding on metal as the train fought to slow from 70 miles per hour. I saw my chance. The door had jarred loose in the impact. I shoved through into the next carriage, kept running, didn't look back. This section had passengers, 3 people scattered across the seats, all looking alarmed at the sudden braking. "There's a man," I gasped. "He was following me. The train jolted again, slowing hard. Through the windows I saw lights. Not a station, something else. Blue lights, multiple vehicles flooding the track ahead. We came to a full stop. The door behind me stayed closed. Police boarded 2 minutes later. There'd been a report. Someone had called in a suspicious individual boarding at the terminus. Security footage showed him following me through the station. By the time they'd coordinated the response, we were already in the countryside. They'd had the driver initiate an emergency stop. They found him still in the coupling gap. He didn't resist. In his jacket pocket, a Stanley knife, zip ties, a roll of industrial plastic sheeting. In his car at Millbrook Station, a folder with my name on it, photos of my building, my work schedule printed from the company website, screenshots of my social media from 3 years ago before I made everything private. The detective told me I was the 4th. The other 3 had gotten off at Millbrook, walked to their cars alone. They never made it home. He'd been watching that train for months, learning patterns, waiting for the right Friday when everything aligned. Empty carriage, no cameras, no signal, no witnesses. He'd planned it like a maintenance schedule. The detective asked why I'd pressed the emergency button when I did. I told him I didn't know. Just instinct. Lucky timing. But sometimes, late at night, I think about what he said. That I'd pressed it wrong. That there was a sequence, and I wonder if he was testing me, if he wanted me to try it correctly, if pressing that button the right way would have done something worse than nothing at all. I take a different train now, earlier, crowded, but I still see his face in every tan jacket, every man who sits too close, every empty carriage stretching into darkness. The bus shelter smelled like diesel and wet concrete. I'd been commuting on the 47 for 3 years. Same route 5 nights a week from the industrial estate to my village. And I'd never seen the driver they sent that Tuesday. I'm writing this because the police closed the case last week. An insufficient evidence. No CCTV on rural routes. No other witnesses willing to make statements. They suggested I'd fallen asleep and had a panic attack. So here it is, everything that happened because someone needs to know. The regular driver, Colin, was off sick. The replacement was younger, maybe early 30s, with a shaved head and those wraparound sunglasses people wear after eye surgery, odd for 9 p.m., but I didn't think much of it. The bus was a substitute too, older model, the kind they retired from city routes. Only 3 other passengers, an elderly woman near the front, a teenager with headphones, and a man in high-vis 2 rows behind me. We pulled away on schedule. The first 2 stops were normal. The elderly woman got off at the church. The teenager stayed on, staring at his phone. Then the driver missed the turn for Blackwood. I stood up, pressed the bell. "You've gone past the stop." He didn't respond. The teenager pulled out one earbud, looked up. The man in high-vis shifted in his seat. "Excuse me," I said louder. "You missed Blackwood." The driver adjusted his mirror. Our eyes met in the reflection. He smiled. Not friendly, satisfied. The teenager stood. "Mate, where are you going?" The driver accelerated. We were on the B road now, the narrow one that cuts through farmland. No street lights, hedgerows pressing close on both sides. The bus picked up speed, engine straining. I grabbed the yellow emergency bar and pulled. Nothing happened. Pulled again. The teenager was at the driver's partition now, banging on the plastic. "Stop the fucking bus!" The man in high vis hadn't moved. He was watching us with the same calm expression you'd have watching television. My phone showed 1 bar of signal. I dialed 999. The call connected, then dropped. Tried again. Same thing. The teenager was shouting, kicking the partition. I looked back at Hivas Man. He was smiling now too. That's when I understood, not just the driver. The teenager must have seen my face change. He followed my gaze, saw the man, and went still. We were doing 60 on a road, meant for 40. The bus lurched around a corner, throwing me into a seat. Ahead, I could see the junction for the old quarry road. The driver took the turn. Gravel track now. Potholes jarring through the chassis. Trees overhead blocked what little moonlight there was. My mind was racing through options. The emergency exit at the back. I'd watched the safety demonstration 100 times, never thought I'd need it. But at this speed, jumping would break bones. Maybe worse. The teenager had the same idea. He was already at the back, wrestling with the red handle. The window was designed to push out in emergencies. He shoved. It didn't budge. "It's sealed," Hivas Man said. His voice was soft, almost apologetic. "They all are." The teenager spun around. "What the fuck is this?" "Sit down," the man said. "Easier if you sit down." I tried my phone again. No signal at all now. The bus slowed, turned onto an even narrower track. Branches scraped the windows. Then we stopped. Engine still running, driver still in his seat. Hivas Man stood up, blocking the aisle. He pulled something from his pocket, a zip tie bundle, the kind contractors use for cable management. The teenager backed against the emergency exit. "We can do this calm," Hivas Man said, "or we can do it difficult. Your choice." I looked at the windows. Safety glass. Unbreakable from inside. The side emergency door required a key the driver controlled. Every safety feature that was supposed to protect us had become a trap. The driver opened his partition. "Phone," he said to me. I didn't move. He sighed like I was being unreasonable and nodded to Hivas Man. The man took 2 steps toward me. That's when the teenager grabbed the fire extinguisher from its mount and swung it at the back window. The glass spider-webbed, but held. He swung again. A crack opened, again. The window sagged outward. Hivas Man lunged for him. I threw myself at the man's legs, rugby tackle, something I hadn't done since school. We went down hard. The teenager kicked at the broken window. It fell away in chunks. He went through head first. I heard him hit the ground outside, heard him running. Hivas Man shoved me off, but I grabbed his Hivas vest, pulling it over his head. The driver was out of his seat now, coming down the aisle. I scrambled toward the broken window, glass cutting my palms as I pulled myself through. I landed in nettles and mud. Couldn't see the teenager, but I could hear him crashing through undergrowth to my left. I ran right, toward what I hoped was the road. Behind me, the bus doors hissed open, footsteps, heavy, fast. I ducked behind a tree, trying to control my breathing. Torch beams swept through the woods. I could hear them calling to each other, coordinating. They'd done this before. I stayed frozen for what felt like hours. Might have been 20 minutes. Eventually, I heard the bus engine rev, heard it drive away, waited longer. When I finally moved, I used the stars to navigate north toward the main road. Found it just before midnight. Flagged down a delivery van. The driver took one look at me, covered in mud and blood, shaking, and called the police. They found the bus 2 days later, burned out in a lay-by near the coast. Stolen plates. Fake company livery. The teenager never came forward. The elderly woman confirmed she'd gotten off early, but said the driver looked like Colin to her. The CCTV at the depot was malfunctioning that night. And the detective said it was probably a robbery gone wrong. Said I was lucky, said rural routes are difficult to police. I don't take the bus anymore. I bought a car I can't afford, but sometimes late at night, I check the local news, looking for stories about missing commuters, about buses that never arrived. So far, there haven't been any. But the 47 still runs 5 nights a week, and I wonder how many drivers they have. Marcus, from accounting, mentioned my grandmother's maiden name during lunch break. Not unusual, except I'd never told anyone at the firm about her. He dropped it casually, mid-conversation about genealogy websites, like it was something I'd shared months ago. I've worked at Hendrick & Associates for 3 years. Small commercial law firm, 12 of us total, occupying the 7th floor of a converted mill building in Bradford. Marcus transferred from the Manchester office 6 months back. Quiet guy, kept to himself mostly, ate lunch at his desk, left exactly at 5:30. That first slip, my grandmother's name, I brushed off. Maybe I'd mentioned it, maybe during the Christmas party when I'd had too much wine. But then he did it again. "How's your sister's flat search going?" he asked one morning, pouring coffee in the break room. My blood went cold. "What?" "Your sister, looking for a place in Leeds, right? Near the hospital?" I'd never mentioned my sister. She's a nurse. She was looking near St. James's. All true. But I'd never, ever discussed it at work. "Must have mentioned it," I said, trying to keep my voice level. Marcus smiled. "Must have." I started paying attention after that, keeping mental notes of what I actually said around the office. I'm naturally private. Don't talk much about my personal life. My route to work, my weekend plans, my family, all off limits in office small talk. But Marcus kept knowing things. He asked if I'd sorted out the issue with my landlord. I hadn't told anyone about the dispute over the deposit. He mentioned my gym closing for refurbishment. I'd never said I had a gym membership. He commented on my car needing an MOT soon. I drive a 15-year-old Fiesta that I park 3 streets away because the building lot costs extra. How did he know it was due? I checked my social media, everything locked down. No recent posts anyway. I don't tag locations, don't share much. My Instagram had maybe 20 photos, all old. My Facebook was dormant. I started testing him. Invented a story about my cousin's wedding in June. Told it to Sarah from reception, made sure Marcus was out of earshot. 2 days later, Marcus asked if I'd found an outfit for the wedding yet. My hands shook like when I logged into my work computer that afternoon. I checked everything. Email filters, forwarding rules, nothing. But then I noticed the browser history I hadn't created. Searches for my address, my vehicle registration, my sister's workplace. All accessed during my lunch breaks when I left my computer unlocked. I always locked it. Always. Except last Tuesday when the fire alarm went off. A drill we'd been warned about. I'd run out with everyone else, leaving my screen active. I reported it to IT. They said they'd look into it, but seemed unconcerned. Probably just clicked the wrong bookmark, they suggested. I insisted. They promised to check the logs. Marcus started leaving me notes. Nothing threatening, just knowing. A post-it on my desk. Hope the boiler repair goes well. My boiler had broken that morning. I'd texted my landlord from my personal phone in the toilet cubicle. Another note, tucked into my coat pocket. Your mom's test results. I'm sure it'll be fine. My mother had a scan scheduled. I'd told no one. The note was in my coat, which I'd left hanging by my desk while I was in a meeting. I confronted him in the empty office kitchen after hours. We were both staying late. Him by design, I now realized. Me because I was avoiding going home, where somehow he seemed to know everything about me anyway. How are you doing this? I kept my voice steady. Doing what? Marcus didn't look up from his sandwich. You know things, private things, about me, my family. You must have told me. I didn't. He finally met my eyes. People share more than they realize. Digital footprints, council records, land registry, DVLA database, electoral roll. It's all public if you know where to look. Well, most of it. That's not, you can't just, can I? He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Who's going to stop me? You've reported it to IT. They found nothing wrong. You've mentioned it to Sarah. She thinks you're stressed. I heard her say so. My chest tightened. Why? Because I can. He wrapped up his sandwich carefully, precisely. Because people like you walk through life thinking privacy exists, thinking you're safe because you don't post on Facebook. But you're not. None of you are. Every transaction, every registration, every website you visit from your work computer, even the locked one, because I watch you type your password, it all builds a picture. And I'm very good at pictures. This is harassment. I can what? Prove it? I'm just a friendly coworker making conversation, remembering things you must have told me. That's what everyone will think. That's what they already think. He stood, brushed crumbs from his shirt. Your sister found a flat, by the way. Ground floor, Hare Hills. Bit rough, but the price is right. You should visit soon, before she changes the locks. I reported it again. To HR this time. They took a statement, promised to investigate. Marcus was interviewed. He denied everything, said I must be confused, stressed. Suggested I'd overshared and forgotten. My coworkers started looking at me differently, poor thing, probably burnout. It finally checked the access logs, no unauthorized logins, no evidence. Marcus suggested maybe I should take some time off, for my health. I handed in my notice last week. I'm moving to Leeds, closer to my sister. New job, new flat, fresh start. I've changed my passwords, my routines. I take different routes. I've learned to lock everything, trust nothing. But Marcus sent me a card on my last day. Inside one line, good luck with the fresh start. The flat on Burley Road has nice light. I hadn't told anyone which street. I move in tomorrow. Text. The office building after midnight smells like burnt coffee and printer toner. I've been working the late data entry shift at Harwell Insurance for 6 months now, alone on the 4th floor, while the cleaners work their way up from ground level. The pay bump for overnight work made sense when my landlord hiked the rent. It started 3 weeks ago, a shape in the glass partition, between my desk pod and the conference room. Just a silhouette, standing perfectly still. I looked up from my screen, blinked twice, and it was gone. Trick of the light from the emergency exit signs, I told myself. The green glow does strange things to the reflective surfaces at night. The second time I was certain. 2:47 a.m. according to my monitor. I'd gotten up to refill my water bottle at the kitchenette when I saw it in the window overlooking the car park. A figure, taller than average, watching from outside, 4 stories up. Impossible. I walked closer to the glass, my reflection merging with the darkness beyond. Nothing there, just sodium streetlights and my aging Fiesta in its usual spot. I mentioned it to Darren, the security guard, when he did his 3 a.m. rounds. He's 60-something, close to retirement, always has a thermos of tea. Motion sensors would have flagged it, he said, tapping the tablet clip to his belt. System's been quiet all night. I nodded. Didn't push it. But I started keeping my phone closer, checking the security camera app the building management had given us after the break-in attempt last year. Every camera on my floor showed empty corridors, dark offices, my solitary desk lamp like a lighthouse beam. Last Tuesday, I saw it again. This time in the lift lobby, visible through the frosted glass doors that separate my work area from the main corridor. A dark shape, human-sized, absolutely motionless. I stood up slowly, my chair wheels squeaking on the plastic mat. The figure didn't move. I counted to 10. Still there. I walked toward the doors. 5 steps, 4, 3. My hand reached for the handle and the lights went out. Not just my floor, the entire building. The emergency lighting kicked in after a few seconds, bathing everything in that sickly green, but those crucial moments of complete darkness. I heard something. Footsteps. Quick, purposeful, moving away down the corridor toward the stairwell. The fire door clicked shut. I stood there, my heart hammering, hand still frozen on the door handle. When I finally pushed through, the corridor was empty. The lift display was dead. The stairwell door showed no signs of movement. I checked the camera app. Connection lost, power failure. Darren found me 10 minutes later, still standing in the corridor. The power had come back, flickering at first, then steady. Substation fault, he said. UK Power Networks already called it in. You all right? You look pale. Did you see anyone in the stairwell? I asked. Just came up in the lift once it reset. Why? I explained. He frowned, checked his tablet. According to the access log, no doors had opened on my floor except when he'd badged through from the lift. The stairwell door required a key card. Only 5 people had 4th floor clearance. Me, Darren, 2 managers, and the facilities coordinator. All managers were logged out hours ago. The coordinator was on annual leave in Spain. I'd seen her Instagram posts. Could be a glitch from the outage, Darren said, but he didn't sound convinced. I'll do an extra sweep before I head to ground. Yesterday I found the photograph. Tucked under my keyboard, slightly warm from the laptop vent. An old Polaroid, the kind with the white border. It showed this office, this exact desk pod. But the photo was old, the furniture was different. An older style from maybe the 90s. And standing in the background, slightly out of focus, was a figure. Same height, same build, same unsettling stillness. I turned it over, written in faded blue ink. Night shift 1996, never worked alone. My hands shook as I pulled up the building records on the company intranet. Took some digging, but I found it. A facilities incident report from October 1996. A data entry clerk named Michael Prasad had fallen down the stairwell during a night shift. 4th floor to basement. The investigation concluded he'd mistaken the stairwell door for the toilet in low light during a power cut. The emergency lighting had malfunctioned. He'd been alone in the building, except for a security guard doing external patrols. I looked at the stairwell door. It's 15 feet from the toilet, clearly marked. Michael Prasad had worked here for 3 years. He would have known. Tonight, I'm writing this from my car in the parking lot. It's 11:45 p.m. My shift starts in 15 minutes. Darren just texted to say he's called in sick. Some stomach bug. A replacement guard is coming, but he's running late. Stuck in traffic on the M25 because of an overturned lorry. I'm supposed to badge in, take the lift to 4, and work until 6 a.m. alone. The building is dark except for the ground floor lobby lights. As I sit here, I can see the fourth floor windows. Most are black, but one, the window near my desk, has a faint glow. I didn't leave my lamp on. I never do. Company policy. And in that window, barely visible against the interior darkness, is a silhouette, standing exactly where my chair should be, waiting. My phone just buzzed. An email from an address I don't recognize. No subject line, just a message. The night shift is never alone. Come up. We've been expecting you. The email signature reads, Meme Prasad, Data Services, 4th floor. I'm looking at the building entrance. The automatic doors just opened. Nobody went in. But I can see the lift indicator above the entrance starting to move. Ground, 1st, 2nd, 3rd. It's stopping at 4. The security footage doesn't show anyone entering after 9 p.m. I've watched it 12 times now, sitting in my manager's office while he types an incident report that won't explain anything. I work tech support for a financial services firm, 3rd shift, Wednesday through Sunday, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. The building's supposed to be empty except for me and occasionally a cleaner who comes through around midnight. I'm on the 7th floor. The elevators need a key card after hours. The stairwell doors lock from the inside. Standard office security. 3 weeks ago, I started noticing things out of place when I'd come back from my break. My chair rolled back from the desk. A drawer I'd left closed, now open, the kind of things you second-guess yourself about. I blamed fatigue. I'd been doing this shift for 8 months, and the sleep schedule never got easier. Then I saw him. It was a Tuesday night, technically Wednesday morning, around 2 a.m. I'd gone to the break room to microwave leftover pasta. The break room's at the east end of the floor, past the server room and through a set of double doors. When I came back, holding my food, I saw someone standing at my desk. Just standing there, facing my monitors. Tall, dark clothes, completely still. I stopped in the hallway. My heart kicked up, but I tried to rationalize it. Maybe building maintenance, maybe another tech support person I didn't know about. I called out, asked if they needed help. No response, no movement. I took 3 steps forward. The motion sensor lights in my section flickered on from the movement. When I looked back at my desk, no one was there. I checked everywhere. The bathroom, the server room, the supply closet. I even checked the stairwell, though the door was locked and my key card showed no other entries that night. I called building security. They said they'd send someone up. The guard who came, older guy, bored expression, walked the floor with me, found nothing. Suggested I was tired. Wrote it up as a possible shadow from the window. Except my desk is interior, no windows. I didn't report it to my manager. Didn't want to seem unstable. It happened again 4 nights later. Same time, almost exactly. 2:03 a.m., according to my phone. I've been troubleshooting a server issue in the back room, away from my desk for maybe 20 minutes. When I returned, he was there again. Same spot, same posture. This time I could see more detail. Dark jacket, hands at his sides, head angled slightly toward my left monitor. I didn't call out. I pulled out my phone and opened the camera. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped it. I aimed, pressed record, and started walking toward my desk. He didn't move, didn't turn. I got within 10 feet. The overhead lights went out. Not flickering, just off. Complete darkness except for the glow of my monitors and the green LED strips along the baseboards. Emergency lighting should have kicked in. It didn't. I heard a sound. Fabric rustling, footsteps, but wrong. Too light, too quick. When the lights came back on 3 seconds later, I was alone. I checked my phone. The video was corrupted. Just static and a high-pitched tone that made my ears hurt. I filed a formal report the next day. My manager reviewed the security footage. Nothing. The cameras cover the elevators, stairwells, and main corridor. My desk area has a blind spot. Budget cuts from 2 years ago meant they removed some cameras. My manager said I should take a few days off. Suggested I see the company's occupational health advisor. I refused. I needed the shift differential. Rent in the city isn't negotiable. I started documenting everything. I set up my phone to record my desk while I was away. I put a strand of hair across my keyboard. I marked the position of my chair with tape. Every time I left my desk for more than 15 minutes, something changed. The hair was gone. The chair moved. Once, my login session had been locked, something I never do, and there were failed password attempts in the system log. 3 attempts, all wrong. All within a 2-minute window while I was in the server room. It investigated. No external breach. No evidence of anyone else accessing my terminal. Last Wednesday, I decided to stay at my desk. No breaks, no bathroom trips. I'd wait him out. Around 1:45 a.m., the building's HVAC system shut off. The ambient hum I'd gotten used to just stopped. The silence was so complete I could hear the electric buzz from my monitors. Then I heard the server room door open. It's a heavy door. Needs a key card and a PIN code. I'm one of 4 people with access on night shift. I turned in my chair. The hallway was dark. Motion sensors hadn't triggered. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and walked toward the server room. The door was closed. I scanned my card, entered my PIN, pulled it open. He was inside, facing the server racks, close enough that I could see the back of his head. Dark hair. He wore a jacket I recognized, same brand, same style as the one our lead systems engineer used to wear. But our lead engineer quit 6 months ago, transferred to another company after some kind of internal dispute. I said his name. The figure turned. I don't know how to describe the face. It wasn't blank. It wasn't disfigured. It was just wrong. Like a photograph of a face overlaid on something that wasn't quite the right shape. I ran. I didn't think. I just ran to the stairwell, shoved through the door, and took the stairs down 7 flights. I sat in the lobby until my manager arrived at 6 a.m. He pulled the footage again. The server room camera showed me entering at 1:52 a.m. It showed me standing there for 40 seconds, then leaving. No one else visible. I'm on mandatory leave now. They're calling it stress-related. The company offered to move me to a different shift, different floor, but I haven't decided. Here's the thing that keeps me awake. I looked up our old lead engineer, the one whose jacket I recognized. He died 3 weeks ago. Car accident on the highway. The obituary said he'd been working late hours at his new job, exhausted, fell asleep at the wheel. 3 weeks ago was when I first noticed things out of place at my desk. I don't know what he's looking for, but I think he's still trying to finish something he started here. And I think he's going to keep coming back until he does. The keys felt heavier than they should have. 3 identical silver Yale keys on a key ring with a faded estate agent logo, handed over by a woman who'd barely made eye contact during the viewing. I'd signed the contract that morning, transferred the deposit from savings I couldn't really afford to touch, and now here I was, 26, single, standing in the narrow hallway of a ground floor flat I'd never spend another night in. I'm writing this from my parents' spare room. The letting agent still has my deposit. I don't care anymore. The flat was advertised as cozy one bed in desirable location, which translated to cramped, damp smelling, overlooking a row of industrial bins. But it was mine. First place alone, no flatmates, no boyfriend, no one's schedule but my own. I'd left a bag of cleaning supplies by the door and started in the bedroom, wiping down surfaces that felt gritty under my fingers. The windows didn't open properly, painted shut maybe, or warped from moisture. The radiator clanked, but stayed cold. By early evening, I'd scrubbed the bathroom, bleached the kitchen sink, and filled 2 bin bags with the previous tenant's detritus, takeaway menus, a broken charging cable, a single earring. I found a stack of mail wedged behind the sofa. Junk, mostly. Catalogs addressed to names I didn't recognize. One envelope had been opened and resealed with tape. Inside, a printed letter, no signature, just 2 lines. You shouldn't have moved in. You need to leave. I laughed. Some kind of prank, left over from a tenancy dispute probably. I binned it. The power cut happened just after 9. No warning, just the lights snapping off and the fridge shuddering into silence. I checked my phone, no signal, which wasn't unusual. The building had terrible reception. I used the torch function to find the fuse box in the hallway cupboard. All the switches were up. I flipped the main one down and back up. Nothing. Outside, the street lights were on. The flats across the road glowed warm through their curtains. Just mine then. I texted the letting agent's emergency number. Message failed to send. I tried calling. It rang once, then cut to a dead tone that didn't sound like voicemail. That's when I heard the scratching. Faint, rhythmic, coming from the wall that backed onto the adjoining flat. I pressed my ear against the plaster. The scratching stopped. Then started again, lower down, near the skirting board. Like nails dragging across wood. I knocked on the wall. Hello? Silence. Then 3 slow, deliberate knocks in return. My pulse kicked up. I grabbed my phone and used the torch to check the front door. Locked, chain on. The windows painted shut, remember. I was sealed in. The scratching resumed, moving along the wall towards the bedroom. I followed the sound, keeping the light trained on the skirting. It stopped directly beneath the window. Someone knocked on the front door. 3 slow knocks, identical rhythm. I froze in the bedroom doorway. My phone torch flickered, battery at 8%. I hadn't charged it since morning. The knocking came again, harder. Then a voice, muffled through the door. Maintenance had a report of a power issue. I hadn't reported anything. The letting agent hadn't replied. I moved into the hallway, staying back from the door. Who sent you? Your landlord. Got the work order here. Need to check the fuse box. I didn't answer. The door handle turned, locked, but the motion sent adrenaline flooding through me. I'd read about this. Fake maintenance workers, landlords who kept spare keys and let themselves in, contractors with access abusing it. I'm not opening the door, I said. Come back tomorrow, during office hours. A pause, then. Suit yourself. But you signed a clause about emergency access. Check your contract. Footsteps retreated down the exterior hallway. I waited, phone torch dying, until I couldn't hear them anymore. Then I checked the door again. Locked. Chain on. But my hands were shaking. The scratching started up in the kitchen. I spun around, light catching the edge of the counter. The sound was coming from inside the cupboard under the sink. Steady, insistent. I backed towards the front door, fumbling for the chain. My phone died. Absolute darkness now, except for the orange glow of streetlights seeping through the bedroom. The cupboard door creaked open. I didn't wait to see what came out. I yanked the chain off, turned the lock, and stumbled into the hallway. Motion sensor lights flickered on, harsh and white. The corridor was empty. I ran for the exit, slammed through the fire door into the street. My car was parked 2 roads over. I didn't look back. I slept in the car that night. In the morning, I called the letting agent from a cafe with Wi-Fi. The woman who answered, different from the one who'd done the viewing, said there was no maintenance scheduled, no landlord work order. When I described the man at the door, she went quiet. "What flat number?" 12A. Another pause. "That flat's been empty for 3 months. The last tenant left suddenly, didn't give notice." "I signed the contract yesterday," I said. "I have the keys." "That's not possible. 12A isn't listed. There's a structural issue, damp electrical faults. It's condemned." I hung up, checked my emails. The contract was gone, the confirmation email, the deposit receipt, deleted, not in trash, just gone. I tried calling the agent back, number disconnected. I drove to the flat. The door to 12A was boarded up, a council notice taped across it, unsafe for habitation. The board was old, weathered. It had been there for months. I don't know who gave me those keys. I don't know who I paid. The bank says the transfer went through, but the account number doesn't exist anymore. I've filed reports. No one believes me. My parents think I had a breakdown, but I still have the keys. And sometimes late at night, I hear scratching in the walls of their house. The fluorescent tubes in the petrol station flickered at 2:47 a.m., casting stuttering shadows across the empty forecourt. I'd been working nights at this rural station for 8 months, and the isolation had become comfortable until the man in the gray hoodie started appearing every Tuesday. He never bought anything, just stood at the edge of the CCTV coverage, watching through the window. The first time, I assumed he was waiting for someone. The second time, I felt uneasy. By the 4th visit, I'd started documenting it. Screenshots from the security monitor, timestamps written in my phone notes. My manager dismissed it when I showed him. Probably homeless, he's not doing anything illegal. But tonight felt different. The storm warnings had been escalating all evening, wind howling across the empty A road that connected our station to the nearest town 12 miles away. Rain hammered the canopy overhead, and the man in the gray hoodie had been standing there for 40 minutes. I busied myself, restocking cigarettes behind the counter, keeping him in my peripheral vision. The security monitor showed 3 angles: forecourt, shop interior, back stockroom. He stood just beyond the forecourt camera's range, a blurred figure at the edge of the light pool. My phone buzzed, a text from my sister. "You still coming Sunday?" I typed a quick reply, grateful for the distraction. When I looked up, he was closer. Right at the edge of the forecourt now, face still hidden by the hood. The door chime made me jump. An elderly woman shuffled in, soaked through, asking for the toilet key. I handed it over, watching her disappear down the corridor past the stockroom. The man hadn't moved. Then the lights went out. Not just in the shop, the forecourt floods too, the road signs, everything. The storm had finally taken down a line somewhere. Emergency lighting kicked in. Dim red LEDs that barely cut the darkness. The security monitor was dead. My phone showed 1 bar of signal, flickering. I heard the door chime again, soft, deliberate. "We're closed," I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. "Your power's out." No response, just breathing. Close, too close. I fumbled for my phone's torch, swinging it toward the sound. The beam caught him standing 3 feet from the counter. Hood still up, hands in pockets. I need you to leave, I said, my voice cracked. He tilted his head. No, you don't remember me. The accent was local, familiar in a way that made my stomach turn. I need you to leave now, or I'm calling the police. No signal, he said quietly. Already checked. He was right. My phone showed no bars now. The toilet door banged open down the corridor. The elderly woman's voice. There's someone in the stockroom. My blood went cold. The man in front of me smiled. I could see his teeth in the phone light. My brother's just getting what we came for, he said. I ran, not toward the exit, he was blocking it, but into the corridor toward the stockroom. The woman pressed herself against the wall as I passed. The stockroom door was ajar, and I could hear movement inside. Boxes being shifted, the safe. I'd opened it 20 minutes ago to deposit the evening's cash. Hadn't locked it yet. Stupid. So stupid. I slammed the stockroom door shut and threw my weight against it. Something heavy hit the other side. Once. Twice. The frame cracked. There's cameras, I shouted through the door. You're on camera. The man's voice came from behind me. He'd followed me down the corridor. No, we're not. We know the blind spots. We know the power goes out every big storm. And we know you're alone until 6 a.m.? He was right about all of it. They'd been watching. Planning. The Tuesday visits weren't random. They were reconnaissance. The stockroom door splintered. A hand reached through, groping for the handle. I bolted past Gray Hoodie, back toward the shop floor. The elderly woman was gone. Out into the storm, hopefully. I vaulted the counter, grabbed the panic button we'd installed last year, pressed it, held it. Nothing. No silent alarm. No police notification. The power outage had killed it too. They both emerged from the corridor now. The brother was bigger, carrying a crowbar. They moved slowly, methodically, blocking the exit again. This doesn't have to be difficult, Gray Hoodie said. Just give us the keys to your car. We'll be gone. My car. They wanted a getaway vehicle, and they knew I'd be afraid to refuse. I threw the keys at his feet. Take them, just go. The brother picked them up, examined them. Which one is it? The blue Fiesta, by the air pump. They exchanged a look. Some silent communication I couldn't read. You're coming with us, Gray Hoodie said. Just to the edge of town, then we'll let you out. I knew what that meant. No witnesses, no identification. They'd dump me somewhere remote, maybe worse. The brother moved toward me. I grabbed the coffee pot from the machine, still hot despite the power cut, and threw it at him. He screamed as scalding liquid hit his face and chest. I ran for the door. The forecourt was a black void, rain coming down in sheets. I couldn't see my car, couldn't see anything. I ran anyway, stumbling over the curb, heading for the road. Headlights, coming fast. A lorry engine roaring, pulling into the forecourt. The driver's cab was high up, diesel engine still running, lights cutting through the storm. I ran toward it, waving frantically. The driver climbed down, a woman in high-vis, looking annoyed. What's going on? Why is everything dark? Call the police, I gasped. 2 men, they broke in. I turned. The forecourt was empty. My car was still parked by the air pump, untouched. The shop door hung open, but no one emerged. The police came 40 minutes later. Found the stockroom destroyed, safe emptied. Found the elderly woman sheltering in the disabled toilet, terrified. Found nothing else, no fingerprints, no DNA. No witnesses except me and a woman who'd only heard voices. The brothers had vanished into the storm, on foot, with 4,000 pounds in cash. I quit 2 weeks later. My manager tried to convince me to stay, said they'd upgrade security, add more cameras, hire a second person for night shifts. But he couldn't answer the question that kept me awake. How did the man in gray know my name? because in those final seconds before I threw the coffee pot, he'd whispered it. My full name. Not the one on my name badge, the one on my driver's license. The one that had been in my car's glove box, along with my registration papers for every Tuesday for the past month while I was inside working. They'd been in my car, going through my things, learning everything. I still see gray hoodies sometimes, in crowds, on buses, outside supermarkets. I tell myself it's paranoia, that it's over. But last week I got a new job at a call center, day shifts only, and on my first morning, I found a coffee-stained business card tucked under my windscreen wiper. It was from the petrol station, the old manager's number, and written on the back in pencil, "We know where you park now." The estate manager's number went straight to voicemail for the third time that morning. I stood in the gatehouse with my phone pressed to my ear, watching condensation roll down the single-pane window, listening to the automated voice tell me the mailbox was full. I'd taken the caretaker position at Fernley House 6 weeks earlier. Remote property, 4 hours north of anywhere that mattered. The listing had been straightforward. Maintain the grounds, check the main house twice daily, report any issues. The pay covered my debts with enough left over to start saving again. The previous caretaker had left suddenly, medical emergency they said, and they needed someone immediately. The gatehouse was mine. 1 room, kitchenette, bathroom. The main house sat 200 yards up a gravel drive, Georgian brick behind an overgrown hedge. The owners lived abroad. I'd never met them. All communication went through the estate manager, a woman named Caroline, who sent terse emails and paid on time. That morning I'd found the kitchen door to the main house standing open. Not forced, not damaged, just open, swinging slightly in the wind that cut across the empty fields. I'd locked it myself the evening before, I was certain. I checked the same 6 entry points every night, rattling each handle twice. Routine kept me sane out here. I went through the ground floor room by room. Nothing disturbed. No broken windows, no footprints on the dusty parquet. The alarm system showed no breaches. I reset it, locked the door, walked back to the gatehouse, and called Caroline. Voicemail. I tried the main office number listed on my contract. Disconnected. The internet was unreliable this far out. My phone showed 1 bar. I opened my laptop, waited for the satellite connection to crawl to life. Searched for the property management company. The website was down. A placeholder page. Domain expired. I told myself there was an explanation. Companies changed names. People switched providers. Caroline was probably dealing with the transition. But I couldn't shake the image of that open door. I spent the afternoon working, cleared gutters on the stable block, checked the generator, walked the fence line, kept busy. The property was 15 acres, mostly pasture reverting to scrub. No neighbors. The nearest village was 8 miles away, accessible by a single-track road that turned to mud when it rained. It had rained for 3 days straight. At 5 o'clock, I did my evening check. The main house was locked, everything secure. I made notes in the logbook I kept, a habit from my old job in building maintenance. Date, time, observations, professional, thorough. Back at the gatehouse, I heated soup and tried Carolyn again. Voicemail. I ate standing at the window, watching the house. The light was failing, sky the color of dirty water. Motion sensor lights were supposed to illuminate the drive at dusk. They didn't come on. I pulled on my coat and walked up to check the fuse box in the garage. The bulbs were gone, all 6 of them, Unscrewed, not smashed. I stood in the garage with my torch beam cutting through the dark, staring at the empty sockets. Someone had been here. I called the police from the landline in the gatehouse. The operator asked for the address. I gave it. She asked me to confirm the county. I did. There was a pause, keyboard clicking. I'm not showing that property in our system. It's Fernley House, Fernley Estate. It's on the old Marsh Road. I have Marsh Road. There's no listing for that name. It's been here for 200 years. Sir, I can send an officer to do a welfare check, but I need a valid address. I gave her the postcode from my contract. She put me on hold. When she came back, her tone had shifted. That postcode is listed as agricultural land, no residential structures. I hung up. I sat at the small table and opened my laptop, searched for Fernley House, found nothing. Searched for the owner's names from my contract. No results. Searched for Caroline's email address. Domain didn't exist. My contract was a PDF. I'd printed it, signed it, scanned it back. Never met anyone in person. The deposit had cleared. The monthly payments came from an account with a generic reference number. I opened my banking app. The last payment was there, dated 2 weeks ago. I clicked on the sender details. The account number was in valid format. Outside, I heard gravel crunch. I killed the lights and moved to the window. A figure stood at the base of the drive, silhouetted against the last of the dusk. Too far to make out details. They didn't move. Just stood there facing the gatehouse. I watched for 5 minutes. They didn't move. I grabbed my torch and opened the door. Hello? No response. I stepped outside. The wind had dropped. Everything was silent, that heavy rural quiet that feels like pressure in your ears. This is private property. The figure turned and walked away, disappearing into the dark beyond the gate. I went back inside and locked the door, pushed the table against it, sat on the bed with my phone in my hand and tried to think. The previous caretaker had left suddenly. Medical emergency. But what if he just left? What if he'd figured out something was wrong and run? I opened the wardrobe. My 2 bags were packed. Had been since I arrived. I never fully unpacked anywhere anymore. I grabbed them, grabbed my coat, and opened the door. The figure was standing 10 feet away. I could see him now in the spill of light from the gatehouse. Middle-aged, wearing dark clothes, hands in his pockets. His face was ordinary, forgettable. He smiled. "You're doing well," he said. 6 weeks is longer than most. "Who are you?" "The estate manager, the real one." "Caroline?" "There's no Caroline, there's no owners. There's no company." He took a step closer. "There's just the house, and it needs someone here, someone to watch it, to keep it occupied. I'm leaving. You can try." I pushed past him and ran for my car, parked by the gate. Got in, turned the key. The engine caught, then died. I tried again. Nothing. He was standing by my window. "The last one made it to the village," he said. "Took him 3 days to walk it, but he came back. They always come back. The house doesn't let go easily." I got out and ran. Didn't take the road. Cut across the field, heading for the tree line. My torch beam jolted and swung. Behind me, I heard nothing. No footsteps, no pursuit. I reached the trees and looked back. The gatehouse lights were on. My car was gone. And the main house had lights in every window. I'm writing this from the village. It took me 11 hours to walk here in the dark. My phone's dead. The pub landlord is letting me use his computer. He says there's no Fernley House. Says Marsh Road is just fields and a few derelict barns. But I can feel it pulling at me. Like a thread, hooked behind my ribs, drawing tight. I don't think I'm going to make it past tonight. Department stores at 4 a.m. smell like floor polish and recycled air. I've been night shift visual merchandiser at Harrington's for 11 months, and the smell still makes my sinuses ache. I'm writing this because my manager filed an incident report yesterday. She's claiming I damaged $12,000 worth of display mannequins. The CCTV footage proves otherwise, but no one wants to look at it properly. They see what they expect to see. I need someone to understand what actually happened during those 3 nights. Harrington's is a 4-floor department store on the edge of town, one of those mid-tier chains that hasn't quite gone under yet. My job is simple: rotate displays, dress mannequins, change window setups according to head office directives. I work alone from midnight to 8 when the cleaners finish and day staff arrive. The building's never truly empty. Security guard on the ground floor, cleaners moving through sections. But it's quiet enough that you notice things. First night, Tuesday, 3 weeks ago. I arrived at midnight to find the 3rd floor women's wear section already rearranged. 6 mannequins I'd positioned Monday night, scattered throughout the department in specific groupings, were now clustered near the fire exit, all facing the door. I checked my task sheet. Nothing about moving them. I radioed down to Maurice, the security guard. Did day shift move the mannequins on 3? Haven't been up there. Want me to check the log? No, it's fine. I repositioned them. Took an hour. I photograph every display on my phone. Management requires documentation, so I had proof of Monday's layout. Someone had definitely moved them. I assumed day shift merchandiser, though Sarah usually texts me if she changes something. I texted her anyway. No response until morning. Wasn't me. Maybe area manager came through? Second night, Wednesday. I came up from my break at 3 a.m. The 3rd floor was wrong again. Not the same mannequins this time. The children's section opposite end of the floor. 8 child-sized figures I'd arranged in a playground scene. Standing, sitting, one lying on a picnic blanket, were gone from their spots. I found them in the stockroom, all of them, lined up against the back wall facing out. The stockroom door had been propped open with a fire extinguisher. My stomach went cold. The stockroom door locks automatically. I'm the only night staff with a key card for that section. I radioed Maurice again. Did you come up to 3 tonight? Negative. Doing my rounds now, just hit the ground floor loose. Why? Stockroom door's open. Want me up there? I should have said yes instead. I'll check it out. The CCTV camera covering that stockroom had a blind spot, the back wall where the mannequins stood. I knew because I'd helped security test the system last month after a theft. Someone else knew too. I moved them all back, took photos, locked the stockroom, tested the handle twice. I worked the rest of the shift in the 1st floor menswear section. Didn't go back to 3 until 7:30 a.m. when I had to clock out. Everything was where I'd left it. Sarah called me that afternoon. Area manager says your photos don't match the directive. You're putting kids' mannequins in wrong positions. I'm following the layout exactly. He wants to meet Friday. Just be ready to explain your process. 3rd night, Thursday. I almost called in sick. Rent was due, though, and I'd already used my sick days after a flu in January. I arrived at midnight, went straight to 3. Everything was normal. I exhaled. At 2 a.m., the lights went out, the whole floor, just 3. Emergency lighting kicked in, pale green runners along the floor, exit signs glowing. I radioed Maurice. Breaker tripped. I'll reset it. Give me 5. I stood in the dark, phone torch on, waiting. That's when I heard it. A soft scraping, plastic on carpet. I swung the torch left. One of the women's wear mannequins, the one I'd positioned near the escalator, was 3 feet closer to me than it should have been. I knew the layout. I knew exactly where I'd placed her. The lights came back on. I blinked against the fluorescence. The mannequin was in her original spot. I checked my photos. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped my phone. She was exactly where she should be. I'd imagined it. Sleep deprivation, maybe. I'd been pulling double shifts. But then I saw the smudge. A drag mark in the carpet pile, a faint line leading from where I'd seen her back to her position. Fresh. The cleaners had vacuumed at 1 a.m. I didn't radio Maurice. I walked to the stockroom, unlocked it. Empty. I checked every corner, behind every rack. I locked it again and went back to the floor. I started repositioning the women's wear mannequins, moving them all to the center of the department where the CCTV had full coverage. That's when I noticed the fire exit. The one the mannequins had been facing that first night. The crash bar was smudged with something. I got closer. Pale foundation makeup. The kind we use on mannequins to even out the plastic finish. Someone had pushed it open from the inside. The fire exit led to a stairwell. I opened the door slowly, propped it with my foot. The stairwell was dark. Emergency lighting only. I could hear something below. Footsteps maybe, or the building settling. I let the door close. I finished my shift in the ground floor stockroom. Door locked. Inventory spreadsheets on my laptop. At 7 a.m., I went back to 3. Every mannequin I'd moved to the center was back in a display position, arranged in a new layout I'd never seen before. Professional. Stylish. Not my work. I took photos. I went home. Friday, I met with the area manager. He pulled up the CCTV footage from Thursday night, 2:03 a.m. The camera showed me standing still for 5 minutes during the blackout, then walking around the mannequins, then moving them all to the center of the floor. Then it showed me leaving. At 6:55 a.m., the timestamp jumped. A 7-minute gap. When it resumed, the mannequins were rearranged. Technical glitch, I said. Or you came back up and moved them again, he said. This isn't the first complaint about your displays. I didn't go back for my next shift. I texted my resignation Saturday morning. The area manager responded with a bill for damages. 11 mannequins with stress fractures in the joints, consistent with rough handling and repeated repositioning. I never touched them roughly. But someone did. Someone who knew the CCTV blind spots, the camera gap timing, my schedule, someone with access. Sarah texted me yesterday. They found a sleeping bag in the 3rd floor stockroom. Police came. Maurice is being questioned. I haven't responded. I don't know what to say. Maurice was always friendly. He walked me to my car some nights when I felt uneasy. He had keys to everything. I keep thinking about those mannequins facing the fire exit, like they were watching something, or waiting for someone to notice what they'd seen. And I keep thinking about the foundation smudge on the crash bar. It wasn't from a mannequin. It was from someone wearing their face. Someone's been following my running route for 3 weeks now. And tonight I finally understand why. I run at night because the park empties out after 9. No dog walkers, no teenagers on the benches, no one asking why a 34-year-old accountant is panting her way through 5 kilometers at a pace that wouldn't impress anyone. Just me, the sodium lights every 50 meters, and the sound of my own breathing. I've done this loop 4 times a week for 8 months. Same route, same time, same playlist. The first time I saw her was 3 Tuesdays ago. yellow running jacket, blonde ponytail about my height. She was stretching by the main gate when I arrived. I thought nothing of it. People run at night. But she was there again on Thursday, and the following Tuesday. Always the same jacket. Always at the gate when I showed up at 9:15. By the second week, I started noticing the pattern. She'd finish her stretches exactly when I started mine. She'd set off on the loop about 30 seconds behind me. I'd catch glimpses of that yellow jacket in my peripheral vision whenever I passed under a light. Never gaining, never falling back. Just there. I told myself I was being paranoid. It's a public park. People have routines. Maybe she liked running at this time too. Maybe she lived nearby. Maybe the yellow jacket was just popular this season. But then I changed my route. Last Thursday, instead of taking my usual clockwise loop, I went counterclockwise. Within 2 minutes, I saw the yellow jacket ahead of me. She'd somehow ended up in front, moving at exactly my pace. When I slowed, she slowed. When I sped up to pass her, she matched it. I stopped completely, pretending to retie my shoe. She stopped too, 50 meters ahead, bending down as if to adjust her own laces. I turned around and jogged back toward the gate, the shortest exit. My heart was hammering, and it had nothing to do with cardio. When I glanced back, the yellow jacket was following, maintaining that same careful distance. I made it to my car, locked the doors, and sat there shaking for 10 minutes. The yellow jacket jogged past without looking at me, disappeared down the street. I reported it to the police the next day. They took notes, asked if she'd threatened me, asked if she'd said anything at all. No and no. They suggested I vary my routine, maybe run somewhere else for a while. Standard advice. Unhelpful, but not wrong. I didn't run for 4 days. But tonight, I had to. I've got the half marathon in 6 weeks, and I'm already undertrained. I convinced myself I'd overreacted, coincidence and paranoia, so I drove to the park at 9:15, same as always. The yellow jacket was waiting by the gate. I almost turned around right there, but something made me stay. Maybe stubbornness, maybe anger. I was tired of being afraid in my own routine, my own space. I walked up to her. "Why are you following me?" She looked at me with this blank expression. Not surprised, not defensive, just blank. "I'm not following you," she said. "I'm protecting you." The way she said it, flat, matter of fact, made my skin crawl more than any threat would have. Protecting me from what? She glanced past me, scanning the empty park. The lights hummed. A crisp packet skittered across the path. "From him?" she said. "The man in the maintenance van. He's been watching you for 2 months. I've been making sure he doesn't get close." I felt cold. "What man? What van?" "Council maintenance, dark blue. He parks on the access road near the east side of the park. He has your schedule. He's been waiting for a night when you're alone, and he's certain no one else will come through." She pulled out her phone, showed me photos. A blue van parked on a service road I'd never noticed. Zoomed shots through the windscreen of a man in a high-vis vest. Timestamps, dates, all matching my running nights. "How did you—" "I'm a private investigator," she said. "Your husband hired me 6 weeks ago. He said you'd been anxious, looking over your shoulder. He wanted to know if someone was bothering you. I found him instead. My husband. Who I'd told about feeling watched. Who'd suggested I was stressed from work. Who'd said I should take a break from running if it was making me anxious." "Where is he now?" I asked. "The man in the van." "I called it in yesterday. Gave the police everything. They arrested him this morning. Previous conviction for assault. He'd been using the maintenance contract to access parks after hours. You were the 3rd woman he'd targeted. She pocketed her phone. I stayed tonight to tell you in person. Your husband wanted to surprise you with the news tomorrow, but I thought you deserved to know now. I've been keeping my distance because I didn't want to scare you. But I realized that's exactly what I did. I'm sorry. I stood there trying to process it. Relief and horror tangled together. Thank you, I finally said. I thought you were the threat. She nodded. I know. I would have thought the same thing. She left after that, jogged off into the night, yellow jacket disappearing into the darkness beyond the lights. I stood by the gate for a long time, looking at the empty path. The park felt different now. Not safer exactly, just different. I got in my car and drove home. My husband was still up, working late in his office. He smiled when I came in, asked how the run went. I told him it was fine. He didn't mention the investigator, didn't mention the arrest. I didn't bring it up either. I should have felt grateful. He'd hired someone to protect me without making me feel paranoid. He'd solved the problem quietly, efficiently. But I kept thinking about the timeline. The investigator said my husband hired her 6 weeks ago. But I didn't tell him about feeling watched until 5 weeks ago. I'm sitting here now in our bedroom, door locked, trying to work out how he knew I needed protection before I knew I needed it myself. And I keep coming back to the same question. How long has he been watching me run? The email arrived at 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Subject line: Security footage review required, your location. I work late shifts at a self-storage facility on the industrial edge of town. 3 nights a week, I'm the only person in the building from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. The pay's decent, the work's mostly sitting at a desk watching Netflix between customer check-ins, and I can study for my accounting exams. The building's new. Built 2 years ago with all the modern security features, badge access, motion sensors, and 68 cameras covering every corridor, every unit door, every entrance. The email had no sender name. Just an automated address from our parent company's IT department. It included a link to our internal camera system and a timestamp. Tonight, 9:23 p.m. 24 minutes ago. I clicked the link. The footage loaded. Camera 34, 3rd floor, East Corridor. The angle showed the hallway outside units 301 through 315, empty. Fluorescent lights humming overhead, casting that bluish tint that makes everything look like a morgue. I watched for 30 seconds, nothing moved. Then I saw it. At the far end of the frame, barely visible, someone stepped backward into a storage unit. Not forward, backward. Like they'd been standing in the corridor, facing the camera, and retreated. I rewound. Watched again. The figure wore dark clothing, hood up. They stood completely still for 11 seconds, facing camera 34 directly, then stepped backward through the unit door. I checked the access log. No badge swipes on the 3rd floor tonight. No customers had checked in after 7 p.m. My desk sits in the ground floor reception area, surrounded by glass windows on 3 sides. The parking lot lights illuminate the empty spaces outside. I'm visible from every angle. Anyone in the building can see exactly where I am at any time. I called my supervisor voicemail. I tried the emergency security line. It rang 8 times, then disconnected. Another email arrived. Same sender, new timestamp, 9:51 p.m., 4 minutes ago. This footage showed camera 12, ground floor, the corridor 20 feet from my desk. The same figure stood at the junction where the main hallway branches toward the loading bay, facing the camera, completely motionless. I could see the edge of my desk in the frame's corner, the glow of my laptop screen. I stood up. The corridor was empty. I sat back down. The figure in the footage remained still for 15 seconds, then walked backward out of frame. I checked the timestamp again. This was happening 4 minutes ago. While I'd been reading the first email, my phone buzzed. Another email. Camera 8, timestamp 9:54 p.m., 90 seconds ago, the loading bay. The figure stood beside the industrial roller door, hood up, facing the camera. Behind them, I could see the door was closed. The security light above it, green, locked from the inside. They raised one hand, pointed at the camera, then stepped backward through the wall. I pulled up the live camera feeds, all 68 of them tiled across my screen in a grid. I scanned each one. Empty corridors, closed unit doors. Nothing moving. Camera 34 flickered. For just a moment, the figure appeared in the frame. Same position as before. Then the feed stabilized. Empty again. Camera 12 flickered. The figure appeared. Pointed at the camera. Disappeared. I grabbed my keys and phone. The front door required my badge to unlock from the inside after hours. A safety feature that suddenly felt like a cage. I swiped my badge. The light stayed red. I swiped again. Red. Another email. Camera 1. The reception area. I didn't open it. I could see camera 1's position from my desk. It was mounted above the front door, angled down to capture the entire reception area. It was pointed at me. My laptop chimed. The email had opened automatically. The footage began playing. The timestamp read 9:58 p.m., 20 seconds ago. In the video, I sat at my desk, staring at my laptop screen. The angle showed the back of my head, my shoulders, my hands on the keyboard. The figure stood behind me, 3 feet away, hood up, face hidden in shadow. I spun around. Nothing. Empty reception area. Glass windows showing the empty parking lot. I looked back at the screen. In the footage, the figure remained behind me, motionless. Then they leaned forward slowly until their hood nearly touched the back of my head. The laptop screen went black. Every light in the building cut out. Emergency lighting kicked in after 3 seconds. Dim red LEDs in the corridors. Battery-powered exit signs. The parking lot lights stayed on outside, making the windows into mirrors. I could see my reflection in the glass. Just me. Alone. My phone buzzed. One more email, no timestamp this time, no camera number, just a single line of text. Stop watching. Start looking. I heard footsteps. Not from the corridors, from above, 2nd floor, directly overhead, slow, deliberate, moving toward the stairwell. The badge reader by the front door beeped. Green light. Unlocked. I didn't move. The footsteps continued, closer now, descending the stairs. I could see the stairwell entrance in my peripheral vision, 20 feet to my left. My phone buzzed again. Not an email this time. A notification from the camera system. Live feed access. 2 users. I was the only person with login credentials on night shift. The footsteps stopped. I couldn't see the stairwell entrance without turning my head. The windows showed only my reflection and the empty parking lot behind me. I pulled up the camera grid on my phone. Camera 2 covered the ground floor stairwell entrance. The figure stood in the doorway, facing the camera, facing me. They raised both hands and pulled back their hood. The feed cut to black. Every camera in the building went offline simultaneously. I ran for the front door. It was still unlocked. I shoved through into the parking lot, into my car. The engine started. I drove. I filed a police report the next morning. They checked the footage. The system had been offline from 9:47 p.m. to 10:12 p.m. due to a scheduled maintenance update. No record of any emails sent from the IT department. No evidence of unauthorized access. I quit the next day. Last week, I received a package at my new apartment. No return address. Inside was a USB drive labeled Security Audit Complete. I haven't plugged it in yet, but every night at 9:47 p.m., my laptop camera light turns on for exactly 24 minutes. The eviction notice came 3 days after I signed the lease renewal. Not an eviction, technically, just a building modernization addendum requiring tenant cooperation with new security installations. Mr. Holbrook delivered it himself, standing in my doorway with that apologetic smile he'd perfected over 20 years as landlord of Ashford Gardens. I'm a paralegal. I read contracts for a living. The addendum was airtight. Consent to camera installation in common areas and select private access points for enhanced safety monitoring, or vacate within 30 days. The building's other tenants had already signed. I was the last holdout, apparently. Just corridors and entry points, Holbrook assured me, his voice warm and paternal. You'll barely notice them. Insurance requirement, really. We've had some package thefts. I hadn't heard about any thefts. I signed anyway. Rent in this part of town had doubled in 5 years. Moving wasn't an option. The installations began that weekend. I came home from the gym on Saturday morning to find Holbrook's contractor, a silent man in unmarked coveralls, drilling mounts above my apartment door. The camera was small, professional looking, angled down at the threshold. Bit close to my door, I said. The contractor didn't respond, just packed his tools and moved to the next unit. By Monday, cameras dotted every corridor. 12 that I counted. Small black domes with red indicator lights that blinked in irregular patterns. The building only had 8 units. I mentioned it to Sarah in 2B while collecting mail. She worked nights at the hospital, barely home, except to sleep. Oh, wake. I don't mind, she said, sorting through takeaway menus. Makes me feel safer, actually. Did you know someone tried the door handles last month? Holbrook told me when I signed. I hadn't known that either. The feeds went live on Tuesday. I knew because Holbrook called at 11 p.m. Just checking you got home safe, he said. Saw you come in around 10:40. Working late? I'd been at a colleague's birthday drinks. How did you... The new system sends alerts when residents arrive after 10, he said smoothly. Safety feature, especially for single female tenants. You'd be surprised how many landlords don't take duty of care seriously. I hung up and checked my front door. The camera's red light pulsed steadily. Wednesday, I varied my routine. Left for work early, used the building's rear fire exit instead of the main entrance. Bought coffee at a different shop, took the long way to the tube station. Holbrook called at 9 a.m. Everything all right? You left through the back this morning. That exit's meant for emergencies only. My hands went cold. I was running late. The fire door's alarmed now, part of the upgrade. I'll reset it this time, but please use the main entrance. It's for your safety. I started documenting. Screenshots of call logs, photos of camera placements. I measured angles with a protractor app. The one above my door could see my kitchen window if I left the curtains open. Thursday evening, I draped a tea towel over the peephole and stuffed newspaper under the door gap. Friday morning, Holbrook was waiting in the corridor when I left for work. Noticed some unusual activity on your feed last night, he said, blocking my path to the stairs. He held a tablet, screen facing me. Thermal imaging showed my apartment layout, a bright yellow shape moving between rooms. The system tracks occupancy patterns. You were up until 3 a.m. Insomnia? You can't. It's in the addendum. Wellness monitoring. If a tenant shows signs of distress, I'm legally obligated to check in. His smile never wavered. You seem stressed, if you don't mind me saying. Perhaps you'd like to come by my office this evening. We could discuss your concerns over tea. I pushed past him and took the stairs 2 at a time. At work, I pulled the lease and addendum. Buried in Clause 7.3. Landlord reserves right to monitor and record tenant welfare indicators via installed systems. My supervising partner confirmed it was legal. Invasive as hell, but technically legal. She suggested I document everything and move as soon as possible. I spent my lunch hour searching for new flats. Everything in my budget was miles away or absolute shitholes. I'd saved nothing. Moving costs alone would drain my emergency fund. That evening, I stayed late at the office. Didn't leave until past 8, hoping Holbrook would be gone. The tube was delayed. Signal failure at King's Cross. And I didn't get back to Ashford Gardens until nearly 10. The building's main entrance was dark. Not just dim, completely black. The camera above the door was offline, its indicator light dead. I used my phone torch to navigate the corridor. Every camera was dark. The stairwell emergency lighting flickered weakly, barely illuminating the steps. My apartment door was ajar. I stood there, heart slamming against my ribs, phone clutched in one sweating hand. Called 999. The operator asked if I was in immediate danger. I said I didn't know. She said officers would attend within the hour. There'd been a major incident across town. Resources were stretched. I pushed the door wider with my foot. The tea towel I'd draped over the peephole was on the floor. My kitchen window was open. I never opened that window. And on my kitchen table sat a teacup, still steaming next to a printed photograph. The photo showed me sleeping. Taken from above, angle suggesting ceiling-mounted camera. Timestamp, 2:47 a.m. Last night. I ran. Down 4 flights of stairs, out through the fire exit that screamed its alarm into the empty street. Kept running until I reached the tube station, crowded and bright and full of witnesses. The police found nothing. No signs of forced entry. No camera in my apartment. Holbrook let them search the whole building, cooperated fully. The cup contained chamomile tea. The photo could have been digitally fabricated, they said. Holbrook suggested I was under stress, perhaps mixing up timelines. He offered to let me out of the lease early, no penalty if I felt unsafe. I'm staying with my sister now. The building's other tenants are still there. Sarah says the cameras make her feel secure. Says Holbrook reduced her rent after she signed the addendum. I drove past Ashford Gardens last week. There's a new tenant in my old flat. I could see her through the kitchen window, making coffee. She looked up at one point, straight at the ceiling like she'd heard something. Then she closed the curtains. The cameras are still there. I counted 14 on the exterior now. The lease renewal came with a single-page addendum about enhanced security measures. My landlord, Derek, slid it across the kitchen counter during what he called a routine check-in, his 4th visit that month. I'd been renting the flat for 18 months. Ground floor, converted Victorian in Hackney, decent size for the money. Derek owned the whole building, lived in the garden flat at the back. Mid-50s, always in those fleece vests, always finding reasons to stop by. Boiler checks, damp inspections, questions about my work schedule at the hospital. The addendum mentioned cameras in common areas, hallway, back garden, bins. Standard landlord paranoia about fly tipping, he said. Smiled that wet smile. Asked if I worked late shifts this week. I signed. Rent in London doesn't leave room for principals. The first camera appeared 2 days later. Small black dome in the entrance hall ceiling. Red LED blinking. Professional installation, proper cabling. Derek had hired someone, done it properly. I felt almost relieved. Maybe he was just worried about break-ins after that spate of burglaries 3 streets over. Then I noticed the angle. I'm not paranoid by nature. 12 years as an A&E nurse teaches you to assess, not assume. But that camera wasn't pointing at the front door. It was angled directly at my flat entrance. Lens aimed down the corridor that led only to my door and the cupboard where I kept my bike. I checked the back garden camera that weekend. Derek had mounted it on the fence post, and again, wrong angle for security. It captured my kitchen window perfectly, the small patio table where I ate breakfast, the washing line. Not the back gate, not the bins, just my space. I told myself I was overreacting. Mentioned it casually to my flatmate Sarah when she came back from her boyfriend's. She laughed, said all landlords were creeps, but she'd barely been home lately anyway, planning to move in with him next month. The third camera went up inside the hallway cupboard. I only found it because the light bulb had blown and I needed to grab my bike pump. There, tucked in the corner behind the meters, another small dome. Battery-powered this time, its lens pointing through the gap in the door slats. Directly at my front door lock, at face height. My hands went cold. This wasn't a common area. This was a storage cupboard locked, meant only for residents. I took photos on my phone. Checked my tenancy agreement that night, reading every clause. Nothing gave him right of access to install surveillance in shared storage. I drafted an email, deleted it, drafted another. Wanted to get the wording right before I escalated. Derek knocked the next morning. 7:15, I was in my scrubs about to leave for work. He had his toolbox. Said he needed to check the stopcock in my flat. Emergency maintenance. Smiled that smile. Now's not great, I said. I'm just heading out. Won't take a minute, burst pipe 2 floors up, need to isolate your supply. There was no building above me. I lived on the ground floor of a 2-story conversion. I stepped aside anyway. What else do you do? He's got keys. Legal right of access for emergencies. I watched him walk through to my kitchen, heard him running the tap, opening cupboards. My bedroom door was ajar. I'd left my laptop on the bed, open. Emails visible. He took 6 minutes. Came back wiping his hands on a rag, said everything looked fine, might have been a false alarm. His eyes tracked across my walls, my bookshelf, the coat hooks. You live in here alone now, he asked. Notice Sarah's been gone a lot. I said she was staying with her boyfriend. Kept my voice flat, professional. Flat feels different with just one person, he said. More vulnerable, you know. Good thing we've got those cameras now. After he left, I checked my bedroom. Nothing obviously disturbed, but I couldn't shake the feeling. I stripped the bed anyway, washed the sheets on the hottest setting. The 4th camera I found that evening when I got home from my shift. Tiny thing, smaller than the others, tucked behind the smoke detector in my hallway, the internal hallway, inside my flat. I had to stand on a chair to see it properly, lens no bigger than a shirt button. I stopped breathing for a moment, just stood there on the chair, staring at this thing that shouldn't exist, that proved every gut feeling I'd been trying to rationalize away. I called the police from my car, parked 3 streets away. The operator was patient, but I could hear the fatigue in her voice. She asked if I felt an immediate danger. I said no. She said it was likely, a civil matter. I should document everything. Contact a solicitor, maybe stay with friends tonight. They'd send someone round tomorrow to take a statement, but without proof of illegal entry. He had keys after all. It was complicated. I drove to Sarah's boyfriend's place. She made up their sofa, made me tea, said I could stay as long as I needed. Her boyfriend worked in IT, said he'd come by tomorrow, sweep the flat properly, check for audio devices too. We found 6 more, 2 in the bathroom, 1 in the extractor fan, 1 behind the towel rail, 1 in the bedroom ceiling light fixture, 1 inside the kitchen cupboard under the sink, 1 behind the living room radiator, 1 in the hallway's electrical socket, a pinhole camera disguised as a screw head. Sarah's boyfriend bagged them all, photographed their positions, pulled the SD cards where he could, said some had been there for months based on the dust patterns. Said the bathroom ones had night vision. The police came that afternoon. Took statements, took the cameras as evidence. The female officer was kind, angry on my behalf, but realistic. Proving who installed them would be difficult. Derek would claim they were there when he bought the building. Or blame previous tenants or the contractors. He'd already removed the hallway cupboard camera. We found just the mount, wiped clean. I'm writing this from Sarah's sofa. It's been 4 days. My solicitor says I can break the lease, citing breach of quiet enjoyment, but I'll lose my deposit and possibly get sued. The police investigation is ongoing. Derek hasn't responded to any messages. His phone goes straight to voicemail. This morning, Sarah showed me something on her laptop. Derek's listed 3 new flats for rent. All ground floor. All single occupancy preferred. One of them has a virtual tour. You can see the kitchen, the bedroom, the bathroom. You can't see the cameras, of course. But if you know where to look, you can see the holes where they'll go. The parish newsletter arrived on a Tuesday, slipped under my door while I was at work. Inside, a handwritten note welcoming me to Ashford Green, signed by 17 people I'd never met. I'd moved into the flat 3 weeks prior, a converted Victorian on the edge of town. Cheap rent, no questions asked. The kind of place you take when you're rebuilding after a redundancy and a breakup that emptied your savings. I worked remotely now, data entry for an insurance firm, kept to myself. Didn't even unpack half my boxes. The note invited me to a community gathering that Friday evening at the recreation center. New residents are the lifeblood of our village, it read. We look forward to welcoming you properly. I wasn't planning to go. But Thursday night, someone knocked. A woman in her 60s, wool cardigan, bright smile. Margaret. She'd signed the note. Just checking you received our invitation, she said. We're so excited to meet you. I told her I had work to catch up on. Her smile didn't waver. Oh, we insist. Everyone attends their first gathering. It's tradition. She left before I could argue further. Friday came. I told myself I'd show my face for 20 minutes, make an excuse, leave. The recreation center sat at the end of a tree-lined road, a squat brick building with peeling paint and fluorescent lights visible through fogged windows. A dozen cars in the car park. I recognized none of them. Inside, the main hall smelled of instant coffee and damp plaster. Folding chairs arranged in concentric circles. 30, maybe 40 people, all ages. They turned when I entered. Applause broke out. Margaret appeared at my elbow, guiding me to a chair in the innermost circle. Our guest of honor, she announced. A man stood at the center. 50s, gray suit, unremarkable face. He introduced himself as David, the community coordinator. He welcomed me by name, my full name, the one I hadn't given Margaret. We believe in transparency here, David said, in mutual support, in ensuring everyone contributes to the collective well-being of Ashford Green. The others nodded, murmured agreement. He asked me to introduce myself. I kept it vague. New to the area, working from home, hoping for a quiet life. Polite smiles all around. Then David asked about my previous address, my employer, my family situation, each question more specific. I deflected. The smiles thinned. "We ask because we care," Margaret said from behind me. "Community requires openness." I stood. Said I needed to leave. David raised a hand. "Just a few more moments. There's a small matter of the residency pledge." He produced a printed form, single page, dense text. I skimmed it. Commitments to attend monthly gatherings, participate in community projects, report concerns about neighbors. The final clause mentioned voluntary contributions to the community fund, suggested at 15% of monthly income. I laughed. Couldn't help it. "This is a joke, right?" No one else laughed. "We take our commitments seriously," David said. His tone hadn't changed, but something in his posture had. "All residents sign. It's how we maintain standards." I handed the form back. "I'm not signing anything. I'm leaving." I turned toward the door. Two men had positioned themselves in front of it, not blocking it exactly. Just standing there, hands in pockets, watching. "We'd prefer you reconsider," David said. My phone was in my jacket. I pulled it out. No signal. The recreation center sat in a dip between hills, I remembered. Shit reception generally. But the timing felt deliberate. "You're making a mistake," Margaret said softly. "Newcomers who refuse the pledge? Well, they tend to find Ashford Green unwelcoming." "Is that a threat?" "It's a reality. The landlords in this area are all community members, employers too. We look after our own. But those who refuse to participate..." She trailed off, shrugging. I looked around the circle. Faces I might see in the co-op, at the post office, the GP surgery. A web of ordinary people who'd decided their neighborhood required loyalty oaths and tithing. "What happens if I just walk out?" David smiled. "You're free to leave anytime. But your lease comes up for a renewal in 3 months. Your landlord, Mr. Hewitt, is sitting 2 rows back. Perhaps you'd like to discuss your intentions with him first." An older man raised his hand in greeting. I recognized him from the letting agency photos. My heart kicked against my ribs. This wasn't legal, couldn't be. But proving coercion, proving conspiracy, I'd need resources I didn't have. And the police station was in town, and staffed by people who probably lived here too. "I need time to think," I said. David nodded. "Of course, we're reasonable people. You have until Sunday evening. Margaret will collect your signed form then. If it's not ready, we'll assume you've chosen not to integrate. Consequences follow naturally." The men at the door stepped aside. I walked out, pulse hammering, expecting hands on my shoulders. None came. The car park was darker than I remembered. My Fiesta sat under a broken light. As I unlocked it, I noticed something tucked under the wiper. Another note. "We know about the fraud investigation at your last job. We know why you really left. Sign the pledge, and that information stays private. Refuse, and it becomes public knowledge. Your choice." No signature. I drove home, checked every lock twice, shoved a chair under the door handle, spent the weekend searching for new flats, new jobs, anything. Every listing in my price range was managed by local landlords. Every local employer had the same names on their websites. Board members, partners, managers, all familiar from that circle of chairs. Sunday evening, Margaret knocked. I didn't answer. She slipped an envelope under the door. Inside, a copy of my lease, highlighted sections about behavior clauses and community standards. A printout of an email I'd sent from my work account at my old job. Out of context, it looked damning. A list of my recent purchases, my GP appointments, my browsing history, and a fresh copy of the pledge. I'm writing this from a Premier Inn 2 towns over. I left everything, furniture, deposit, half my belongings, drove out at midnight, didn't tell anyone. I've blocked my old number, set up new emails, applied for jobs in cities I've never visited. But I keep thinking about that list, the level of access they had, the coordination it required, and I keep wondering how many other towns have a community coordinator named David, a welcome committee, a pledge that isn't optional. I'm not going back. But I'm not sure I've really left either. Because 2 days ago, a parish newsletter arrived at this hotel, addressed to my new name, the one I'm using for job applications. Inside, a handwritten note. We hope you're settling in well. The community here is very welcoming. The first envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning, cream-colored paper tucked against my doormat. No stamp, no postmark, just my name written in careful blue ink across the front. I work from home 3 days a week, freelance copywriting for medical software companies. The isolation suits me. I'd moved into the ground floor flat in Hackney 6 months earlier, after my relationship ended, and I needed somewhere cheap fast. The building's Victorian conversion, 4 flats total, shared entrance hallway with individual front doors. Mine faces the street-level door. Anyone could slip something through without buzzing up. The letter contained a single typed paragraph on plain printer paper. I've been watching how you take your coffee in the morning. 2 sugars, no milk. You stand by the window while it cools. You don't realize how visible you are. I told myself it was a prank, someone from the building having a laugh. But I did stand by my kitchen window most mornings, mug in hand, staring at the brick wall opposite. The flat's dim. I crave the natural light. I checked the window sight lines that evening. The building across had been scaffolded for months. Renovation work that seemed perpetually stalled. Dozens of windows, dozens of angles. I bought blackout curtains online, next day delivery. The second letter arrived Thursday. I found it when I came back from Tesco, around 3. Same handwriting on the envelope. Inside, you changed your curtains? That's sweet. But I already know what your bedroom looks like. The framed print above your bed. Rothko, the orange and yellow one. You bought it at the Tate Modern gift shop last year. You hesitated before spending £40 on it. My stomach dropped. That print. I had bought it at the Tate. I'd stood in the gift shop for 10 minutes debating the cost, finally justifying it as a treat after a particularly good month. How could anyone know that? I called the non-emergency police line. The operator was polite, detached. Without explicit threats, there wasn't much they could do. Keep the letters, document everything, call 999 if I felt in immediate danger. She gave me an incident number. I wrote it on a Post-it that I stuck to my fridge. Friday morning, I installed a video doorbell, battery-powered, linked to my phone. I angled it to catch anyone approaching my door. The setup took an hour. My hands shook the entire time. Letter 3. Saturday afternoon. I watched the notification ping on my phone while I was in the shower. The footage showed nothing. The hallway empty 1 minute, an envelope on my mat the next. I replayed it 6 times. No one visible. Just the letter materializing like a magic trick. Inside. The doorbell won't help. I'm not someone you'd suspect. We pass each other. You've smiled at me. I stopped leaving the flat except for essentials. I ordered groceries online, skipped my usual morning run, started working from the bedroom, curtains drawn, the orange Rothko print now facing the wall because I couldn't stand looking at it. The letters kept coming, every 2 or 3 days. Each one revealed something small, intimate. The brand of tea I preferred, the fact I played the same Spotify playlist when I worked, and the scar on my left knee from a cycling accident when I was 12. Details I'd never shared online, never posted anywhere. I compiled a list of everyone I'd interacted with since moving in, the postman, the Deliveroo drivers, my upstairs neighbor Marcus who worked nights and sometimes nodded hello in passing, the woman in flat 3 who had a Pomeranian, the elderly man in flat 4 who I'd helped carry shopping up the steps once. I started taking photos of everyone I saw on my street. The man who ran the corner shop, the woman who walked her Greyhound past my building every evening at 6, the teenager who skateboarded down the pavement most afternoons. I kept the photos in a folder on my phone, studying faces, looking for something off. By letter 7, I wasn't sleeping properly. The doorbell footage showed the same impossible pattern. Empty hallway, then envelope. No one. I watched the recordings frame by frame. Nothing. The 8th letter arrived during a package delivery. I was waiting for a grocery order, watching the doorbell feed live on my phone. The delivery driver knocked, left the bags, walked away. The hallway stayed empty for 30 seconds. Then the envelope appeared sliding under my door from inside the building. I yanked the door open. The hallway was empty. 4 doors, all closed. I stood there breathing hard, listening. Silence. The letter. You're getting warmer. But you still haven't figured it out. You let me in yourself. I went through my phone. Every contact, every email, every social media interaction from the past year. I changed all my passwords. Enabled 2-factor authentication on everything. I called my ex, asked if he'd given anyone my address. He sounded concerned, confused, but no. Letter 9 came on a Wednesday. I'd started sleeping in the living room, on the sofa, closer to the front door. I wanted to hear if someone tried to enter. The envelope woke me at dawn, the soft sound of paper on tile. I grabbed my phone, pulled up the doorbell feed. Nothing. Rewound, 30 minutes, nothing. Inside. You gave me a key, remember? Last month. You were so grateful. Last month. I'd locked myself out one evening, no phone, no wallet. Marcus from upstairs had let me use his mobile to call a locksmith. But before that, the woman in flat 3, Mrs. Peterson, had offered me tea while I waited. She'd been so kind. I'd given her a spare key the next day, just in case it happened again. A neighborly gesture. She'd seemed so normal. 70-something, the Pomeranian, the cardigan. I looked at my door. The deadbolt I'd installed last week. It didn't matter. She had a key. I haven't confronted her yet. I don't know what I'd say. Instead, I've been cataloging everything, documenting. The police incident number sits on my fridge beneath a magnet shaped like a coffee cup. This morning, letter 10 arrived. I didn't open it right away. I sat on the sofa, holding the envelope, listening to Mrs. Peterson's footsteps in the hallway as she took her dog out for its morning walk. She hummed something tuneless as she passed my door. The envelope is still sealed on my coffee table. I know I'll have to open it eventually, but right now I'm sitting here, curtains drawn, wondering what else she knows that I haven't figured out yet.